Federal Capital Territory Administration, amount to be wired 3 billion. Source of environment, Federal Capital Territory Administration, 1,700 million. Federal Minister of Trade and Investment, 1,300 million. Total 3 billion. Number 8, Federal Minister of Health Headquarters, amount to be wired within projects within the ministry, 1 billion. 9, Office of Secretary to the Government of the Federation, amount to be wired within projects within the ministry, 735,035,000. 10, Federal Minister of Labor and Employment, amount to be wired within the projects within the ministry, 1,093,579,983 naira. 11, Federal Minister of Information and Culture, amount to be wired within the projects within the ministry, 729 million. 12, Federal Minister of Communication Technology, amount to be wired within projects within the ministry, 734 million. 13, Federal Minister of Water Resources, amount to be wired within the projects within the ministry, 2,287,541,000. 14, Federal Minister of Mines and State Development, amount to be wired within projects within the ministry, 1,100 million. Federal Minister of Environment, amount to be wired within the ministry, 241,001,800. Grand total, 135,643,018,749. The specific appropriation items required are contained in Schedule 1, while the specific appropriated items from which to vary the amounts required are contained in Schedule 2, both of which are attached hereto. In the light of the above, I implore you to urgently consider these environment proposals in order to support our collective efforts to improve the well-being of our citizens. Please accept, distinguished Senate President, the assurance of my highest regards. Signed, Professor Yemi Osibanjo, San, GCON, Acting President and Commander-in-Chief, Federal Republic of Nigeria. Another letter from Mr. President. This time, the FCT 2017 statutory budget proposal. FCT 2017 statutory budget proposal. I have the honor to seek Senate approval of the FCT 2017 statutory budget proposal of the Federal Capital Territory Administration in line with Section 121 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended. As Excellency is aware, the Federal Capital Territory Administration runs two budgets, namely the national and statutory budgets. The FCT component of the national budget is funded directly by the federal government for the provision of district infrastructure development, water supply, sewage treatment, and infrastructure development of the satellite towns of the Federal Capital Territory. The statutory budget, on the other hand, is funded from the statutory allocation, internal generated revenue, and other sources of funds accruable to the Federal Capital Territory. It will be recalled that the sum of 30,397,127,872 naira only was appropriated for FCT in the 2017 approved federal budget. The statutory budget is usually presented to the National Assembly after the passage of the federal budget in order to enable the FCTA capture essential capital projects that are often removed from the federal budget. The FCTA has prepared the 2017 FCTA statutory budget of the sum of 222,360,551,512 naira. Only based on the 2017 to 2019 medium-term expenditure framework and the key assumptions of the federal government for 2017 budget. The breakdown of the budget is as follows: personnel costs, 52,574,479,067 naira, which represents 23.64%. 2. Overhead costs, 41,294,590,480 naira, representing 18.57%. And then capital expenditure of 128,491,481,366 naira, representing 57.79%. Total, 222,360,551,512 naira, which is 100% of the budget of the FCT for 2017. In line with the federal government emphasis on capital projects, The FCT budget ratio for capital and recurrent expenditure is 57.79% and 42.21% respectively. Considering the need to complete the ongoing projects, 93% of the capital expenditure proposals is dedicated for such projects, while 7% is for new projects, mainly for the provision of access roads and social amenities. The estimated revenue for the FCT in 2017 budget proposal is to accrue from the following main sources. One is statutory revenue allocation. Two, FCT share, which is the FCT share of 1% out of the federal government share from the Federal Account Allocation Committee, inclusive of VAT and excess internally generated revenue. Now, the expected internally generated revenue of the sum of 139,988,517,303 naira is to accrue from the major revenue generating agencies of the FCT, which include the Abuja Environmental Protection Board, the FCT Internal Revenue Services, Water Board, Abuja Geographic Information System, and the Directorate of Road Traffic Services. The numerous debts owed these agencies have also been identified, and adequate enforcements will be made towards recovery of the outstanding debts. I have taken the liberty of attaching the FCT 2017 statutory budget proposals for ease of reference and consideration. While looking forward to your kind approval of my request, please accept, distinguished President of the Senate, the assurances of my highest esteem at all times. Signed, Professor Yemi Osibanjo San, Acting President, Federal Republic of Nigeria. Further announcements. This is a special announcement, notice of meeting. This is to notify members of the Senate Committee on Trade and Investment that the committee meeting is scheduled as follows: Tuesday, 25th July 2017, time 2 p.m. Committee Room 324, Senate Building, National Assembly Complex. All members are expected to attend to consider and approve the report on counterfeit goods BA 2017 and IGR budget of MDAs before the committee. Signed, Senator Fatimat Raji Rasaki, Chairman. Further announcements. Letter of appreciation. This is from Senator Goswill Ababio. Your Excellency, I extend to the distinguished Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki, the compliments and appreciation of myself, my family, and Akwa Ibom Northwest Senatorial District for your kind participation during the Constituency Briefing and Empowerment Program held on July 6, 2017 at Ikoteben Township Stadium in Akwa Ibom State. I also use this opportunity to express my heartfelt appreciation to all distinguished senators who were able to physically grace the occasion and those who could not be physically present but supported us morally and through prayers. There's no doubt that your strong delegation of 21 distinguished senators led by Senator Philip Adoda, Senate Minority Whip, and the kind words expressed during the event added color and panache to the occasion. Thank you for immense support, and do extend my deep appreciation to my distinguished colleagues in the red chambers of the 8th Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Finally, I enclose herewith a copy of my speech during the occasion for your kind perusal, and remain blessed. Announcement from Senator Hope Uzodinma. There will be a meeting of the Southern Senators Forum immediately after sitting. After plenary, venue Senate New Wing, room 4.31. Please be punctual, as the meeting will be very brief. Signed, Senator Hope Uzodinma, Chairman. Distinguished colleagues, birthday announcements. 22nd of July was the birthday of Olubenga Ashafa. Also, 22nd of July was also the birthday of Ahmed Rufai Sani. 22nd July too was the birthday of Bala bin Nala. And Abdullahi Adamu's birthday was 23rd of July. On behalf of the Senate, I would like to extend our good wishes to our colleagues who have had their birthdays on those dates, and wish you many more years of service to our fatherland, wishing you good health and the peace of mind. God bless you all. Senate Leader. Point of order, Senator Mao Huabunwa.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, my name is Senator Mao Huabunwa. I'm coming up on that 5610 because the noise is getting so much. Order 5610 says, during a sitting, all senators shall be silent or shall confer only in undertones. Mr. President, I'm raising this point of order, at least so that our members will conform and obey that section. Thank you.
Order sustained. This place is very noisy. We have visitors here and they are watching us. So can we conduct our affairs more in a better decorum? We are now in petitions. Senator Oba.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Obi Oba, my name, Ebonyi Central Senatorial District, Ebonyi State. Mr. President, I have two petitions here. One is from Major KDC Obi Monso, retired, against Nigerian Army for wrongful dismissal, and again from Uje Kama, also a retired lieutenant, against Nigerian Army. There is no legal impediment to these petitions. May I have your account permission to lay it, Mr.
Go ahead. All right, thank you, Senator. I refer to the Committee on Petitions to report back in 2 weeks. Any other petition? Yes, Anduba.
Not this one. Okay, move on. This one, they work. Alerius one is working.
Those ones are not working.
This one is working. Okay.
Mr. President, most distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Anduba, representing Anambra South Senatorial Zone. Order, order.
My advice is also the 2 weeks.
Yes. Mr. President, I have two petitions from my constituents. One is from Mr. Gibson Ago against Unilever for wrongful dismissal, and the other one is petition against Federal Minister of Communication for them to refuse to vacate a warehouse belonging to one Messrs. Golden Sheriff Nigerian Limited. Mr. President, there is no legal action on this. Can I lay the petition, Mr. President?
Yeah, proceed to lay it. Thank you. Refer to the Committee on the Petitions to come back in 2 weeks. Omo Walari.
Mr. President, sir, my petition is brought under Order 41.
Petition. Is it petition? Okay, go ahead.
Statement. The brief statement is that my constituent participated in a peace corps in West Africa, and they have not yet been paid. He is humbly requesting the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to assist in this wise. I've gone through it, and the matter is not sub judice.
Can lay it then. All right, thank you. Refer to the Committee on Petitions to report back in 2 weeks. Senator Dino Malaya. Senator Malaya.
Mr. President, my very respected colleagues, Dino Melaye, Kogi West. Mr. President, I have a petition from one of my constituents, Lieutenant Colonel Abdul Fattah Mohammed, request for investigation of unlawful and malicious compulsory retirement from the Nigerian Army. Mr. President, there is no litigation on this matter. If I have the leave of the President, I wish to lay the petition.
You can go ahead and lay it. Thank you. It's also referred to the Committee on Ethics, Ordinary Ethics and Petitions to report back in 2 weeks. Yes, Senator Utazi.
I'm Senator Chukwuka Utazi. I represent the good people of Enugu, North Central District of Enugu State. Mr. President, I have a petition from a constituent, a non-governmental organization, Global Peace and Sustainability Network. And the petition is against the PDDC Limited. Petition against the sales of oil block OML 13 to Selling Global Exploration and Production Company by the Nigerian Petroleum Development Company Limited. Against all the known acts passed by this assembly on the procurement and sale of anything in this country. They have approached me and asked me to present this petition, and I'm presenting this petition hoping that the Senate will look into it and ensure that the Federal Republic of Nigeria is not shortchanged in any way possible. Mr. President, with your leave and permission, I can lay this petition.
Go ahead. Also refer to the Committee on Ethics and Petitions to report back in 2 weeks. Any other petition? Just one more announcement, which acknowledge the presence of members of Students' Union Government, Modibo Adamawa University of Technology, Yola, Adamawa State. We also have staff and students of SOS, Hardman Minor Primary School, Jos, Plateau State. We'd like to welcome all of you. Please settle down and wish you a fruitful observation of our proceedings for today. Distinguished colleagues, it's also important to remind each and every one of us that we agreed in the closed session to do further consultation with the House of Reps on whether we can possibly vote on the constitutional amendment tomorrow. I just want to appeal that everybody should be here tomorrow in the event that we have to vote. I want to appeal that every senator will be present tomorrow. And if you have our colleagues who are not here, please remind them to be present. Senior leader.
Did he call this?
Senior leader. Point of order. Yes, distinguished senator. Senator Ozoko.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, my name is Rose Oko, Cross River North. I come under Order 42, and by your permission, I read. The matter for discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day's sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. If the claim is allowed by the President of the Senate, and the leave of the Senate is given by at least 1/5 of the senators, the matter shall stand over till the next legislative day. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, in the past 1 or 2 weeks, there has been in the public space and discourse the matter of some Nigerians who live in the Cameroons, in particular in what was formerly the Bakassi Peninsula belonging to Nigeria, but who are now Nigerians in diaspora. Mr. President, recall that in 2002, the ICJ ruled over the ownership of the Bakassi Peninsula and ceded that peninsula to the Cameroon. Mr. President, consequent upon that, Nigerians who hitherto had lived in their ancestral land and lived as Nigerians found themselves in a foreign land. In the wake of that ruling, an agreement was entered into between Nigeria and the Cameroon, and that agreement was signed in 2006. Mr. President, in particular, Article 3.2 of that agreement, among other things, stipulates that Nigerians that choose to live in the Bakassi Peninsula and now the Cameroons would not be unduly charged indiscriminate taxes and levies, and that everything will be done by the Cameroonian government to protect Nigerians from any form of harassment. Mr. President, there's reason to believe that the terms of the Green Free Agreement are not being complied with by the Cameroonian government, as was the case that saw the flight of the mass return of Nigerians living in that place into Cross River State a couple of weeks ago. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I want to bring a motion on the next legislative day. I seek to bring a motion on the next legislative day to this effect. I so move.
Right. Those in support of our motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So it will be scheduled appropriately. Senate Leader.
Point of order.
Go ahead, Senate Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I come under Order 43, and with your permission, sir, I will read. By the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, a senator may make a personal explanation, although there be no question before the Senate, but no controversial matter may be brought forward, nor may debate arise upon the explanation. The terms of the proposed statement shall be submitted in detail to the President of the Senate when his leave to make it is sought. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I cited this order in respect of a meeting we held yesterday in the conference room of the Leader of the Senate. This meeting was specifically to discuss the incessant kidnappings that have become the situation on the Abuja-Kaduna Expressway. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Police Affairs, led by its chairman, was in attendance, and so also the chairman of the House Committee on Police Affairs. The IG and his team were also there. And we discussed at length that the current situation in which there is either a mass kidnapping or kidnappings of individuals on a daily basis on this highway is not acceptable to us as representatives of the people. And therefore, we needed explanation from the police authorities. We needed to see a way forward, a better and working security architecture and arrangement to ensure that this situation is arrested. The IG explained that currently there is a joint operation between the police and the army on that express road. That the police had contributed about 600 personnel and donated 90 patrol vehicles to the joint operations. But of course, this has not solved the problem at all. In fact, the problem has escalated. The IG, of course, promised that from today, Tuesday, there will be another set of operation that is exclusively police designed. And this will be to reinforce the joint operation that they undertake with the military. Mr. President, we have accepted that promise. We have taken the Inspector General of Police on his words and his pledge. And we are going to monitor particularly the two committees on police affairs of the two chambers. We'll have to monitor and see the situation if there will be any improvement. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the IG also raised some issues, largely issues of funding, and we believe that there are supposed to be short-term funding arrangements and support, but also long-term funding arrangements for effective policing of Nigeria. The short term is during these immediate operations, this assembly and indeed this administration will have to look for financial support for the police to not only police our roads and highways properly, but do the other operations that they are built by the law. But we also believe at that meeting, and I want to appeal and urge our colleagues here, that the National Assembly should pass the Police Trust Fund bill. This bill will provide some funds from profits and other sources, largely not governmental, for our police force to have quantum funds which will improve their operations and maybe make Nigeria better and safer. I want to thank my colleagues for listening, even though I understand that this is not a debatable situation, but I've decided to bring it to the notice of our colleagues that this is what we have done yesterday, and the door is open for any of our colleagues who may have issues to either come through a motion or address the situation through this process, which we think is also effective. Thank you very much for that.
All right, thank you, Senior Leader, for that briefing. I think we've emphasized over and over in these chambers that the primary purpose of government is the security and welfare of the people. So we sympathize with the police in respect of the problems they're having, some of their challenges, especially funding and manpower. But while that is being addressed, I think it's important that we'll maximize whatever we have now to be able to protect the lives and properties of Nigerians wherever they live. So I'm happy that the Senate is now involved in this dialogue, in this conversation with the security agencies, especially the police, to ensure that we minimize this problem of kidnapping. It's bringing us a lot of embarrassment, and it's not good for the image of our country. So I just want to appeal that the police will need to double their effort in order to minimize this issue of kidnapping. So we commend you and your committee and the Committee on Police Affairs for this dialogue. Please keep the conversation going on. Ensure that you engage them constantly. Deploy your oversight responsibilities to ensure that the police will also continue to be on their toes in ensuring that we protect the lives and properties of Nigerians. So we'll wait the outcome of the promises they made. We believe that that will yield positive results. Thank you. Senior Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the first business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Enju Mala on the Federal University of Technology, Manchok, Establishment, etc. Bill 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal University of Technology, Manchok, Establishment, etc. Bill 2017, SB 536, first reading.
Dear colleagues, Federal University of Technology, Manchok, Establishment, etc. Bill 2017, SB 536, first reading taken. Senior Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Alu Wakili on the Nigerian Customs Service Pension Board, Establishment, etc. Bill 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Nigerian Customs Service Pension Board, Establishment, etc. Bill 2017, SB 538, first reading.
Dear colleagues, Nigerian Customs Service Pension Board, Establishment, etc. Bill 2017, SB 538, first reading taken. Senior Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the third business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Kabir Marafa on the Petroleum Industry Administration Bill 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Petroleum Industry Administration Bill 2017, SB 540, first reading.
Dear colleagues, Petroleum Industry Administration Bill 2017, SB 540, first reading taken. Senior Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of very distinguished Senator Atai Aidoko on the Nigeria Post Authority Act, Cap N126, LFN 2004, Amendment Bill 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Nigerian Post Authority Act, Cap N126, LFN 2004, Amendment Bill 2017, SB 541, first reading.
Dear colleagues, Nigerian Post Authority Act, Cap N126, Laws of the Federation 2004, Amendment Bill 2017, SB 541, first reading taken. Senior Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fifth business of the day is the presentation of a House bill standing in my name on the Matrimonial Causes Act, Cap M7 LFN 2004, Amendment Bill 2017. Mr. President, may wish to invite the Clerk of Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Matrimonial Causes Act, Amendment Bill 2017, HB 110, first reading.
This is a very important bill from the Senate Leader. Matrimonial Causes Act, Amendment Bill 2017, HB 110. 110, first reading taken. Senate Leader.
Mr. President, thank you very much for the compliments. Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, The sixth business of the day is the presentation of the report of the Committee on Education and UBEC on the Compulsory Universal Basic Education Amendment Bill 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Ali Wamako, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Senator Wamako.
Mr. President, my dear colleagues, my name is Aliyu M. Wamako, 20 North Central District. I move that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Education, Basic and Secondary, on the Compulsory Universal Basic Education Act Amendment, Bill 2017, SB 307 and SB 374 as consolidated. I so move.
Senator Mwagagi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Is it me, sir? Huh? Is it me? Oh, yeah. Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Ovie Omo Agege, Delta Central Senatorial District. I rise to second the motion that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Education and UBEC on the Compulsory Universal Basic Education Act Amendment Bill 2017, SB 307, as moved by the Chairman, Senator Wamako. I so second.
This is colleagues in support that Senate do not receive this report. Say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Wamako will proceed to lay the reports. Very well, thank you. Senate Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the seventh business of the day is the presentation of the reports of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petition in respect of A, petition from ASP Anthony Igwe Mbojirikwe against the Nigerian Police Force for unlawful suspension from duty by the force. B, petition from Sergeant Bio Ladong against Nigerian Police Force for unlawful verbal dismissal from the police. C, petition from PC Celestine Williams against Nigerian Police Force for unlawful dismissal from the force. D, petition from PC Ovwa Mariani Akpometeha against Nigerian Police Force for unlawful dismissal from the force. And E, petition from Comrade Princewell Okari on behalf of the Association for Public Policy Analysis or Analysts against the Federal Medical Center Owerri over the crisis between the hospital management led by Dr. Angela Wakwem and the hospital staff union, which crippled service delivery at the center. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Samuel Anyau, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the reports.
Senator Anyau.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Sam Anyang. I represent Imo East, Imo State. With the leave of Mr. President and the Senate, I move that the Senate do receive the report of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions in respect of the following. A, petition from ASP Anthony Igwe Mbojirikwe against Nigerian Police Force for unlawful suspension from the duty by the force. B, petition from Sergeant Bio Ladong against Nigerian Police Force for unlawful verbal dismissal from the force. C, petition from PC Celestine Williams against Nigerian Police Force for unlawful dismissal from the force. D, petition from PC Ogbo Mawarian Abometaho against Nigerian Police Force for unlawful dismissal from the force. And E, petition from Comrade Princewell Okori on behalf of the Association of Public Policy Analysis against the Federal Medical Center over the crisis between the hospital management led by Dr. Angela Wakwem and the hospital staff union, which crippled service delivery at the center. I so move, Mr. President.
Thank you. Senator Stella Odua.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dear colleagues, my name is Stella Odua. I represent Anambra North. Mr. President, I rise to second that the Senate do receive reports from Ethics and Privileges and Public Petitions Committee as presented by Senator Sam Anyanwu. I so support. Thank you.
Thank you. Those in support of the motion that Senate do not receive this report, say aye. Those against saying the ayes have it. Senator Anyanwu may proceed to lay the reports. All right, thank you. State leader. State leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished and respected colleagues, the eighth business of the day is the presentation of the report of the Committee on Special Duties on the Presidential Inauguration Bill 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Abdulaziz Nyako, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Senator Nyako.
Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. President. I rise to move the motion that the Senate receives the report of the Committee on Special Duties on the Presidential Inauguration Bill 2017 SB 379. I so move.
Senator Issa Shaibu Lau.
Distinguished colleagues, I rise to support the motion heavily moved by distinguished Senator Abdulaziz M. Nyako to receive the report of Committee on Special Duties. I so second.
All right, thank you. Distinguished colleagues, those in support of the motion that this Senate do not receive this report, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senate leader. Please, you can lay the report, please. Let's lay the report. Very well, thank you. Senate leader.
Mr. President, very respected colleagues, the eighth business of the day. Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the ninth business of the day is the presentation of the report of the Committee on Local and Foreign Debt on the 2016-2018 External Borrowing Rolling Plan. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Comrade Senator Shehu Sani, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Comrade Shehu Sani.
Mr. President, I stand as Comrade Senator Shehu Sani to move that the Senate do receive the report on the proposed federal government 2016 to 2018 external borrowing rolling plan. I so move.
Senator Wajimogu.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to support the motion moved by Comrade Shehu Sani, Senator, that the Senate do receive the report on the Committee on Local and Foreign Debts. I so support.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, those in support that Senate do not receive this report, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Comrade Shehu Sani may proceed to lay the report. Thank you so much. The leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the 10th business of the day is the presentation of the report of the ad hoc committee on planned concession of the Port Harcourt refinery to Ajib, Eni, and Owando. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Abubakar Kyari, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Senator Kyari.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Abubakar Kyari, representing Borno North. I rise to move the motion that the Senate do receive the report of the ad hoc committee on planned concession of the Port Harcourt refinery to Ajib, ENI, and Owando. I so move.
Thank you. Senator Kume. Senator Kume. Very distinguished Senator Kume.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, Senator George Akume, Benue Northwest. I rise to second that motion. Thank you.
Smart man. Thank you, distinguished colleagues. Those who support that the Senate do not receive this report say aye. Those against saying nay, they ask me to proceed to lay the report. Thank you. Senate Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day is the second reading of the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Agency Establishment, etc. Bill 2017. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Thursday, 20th July 2017, after an exhaustive debate pursuant to the motion on their implication of the suspension of Nigeria from the Egmont Group of Financial Intelligence Units on Wednesday, 19th July 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Chukwuka Otazi to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Senator Otazi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I am Senator Chukwuka Otazi. I represent the good people of Enugu North Central District of Enugu State. Thank you for inviting me to lead the debate for the second reading of this all-important bill. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, thank you for the honor to lead the debate on the general principles of the bill for an act to establish Nigeria Financial Intelligence Agency. Following a motion on the dire implications of the suspension of Nigeria from the Egmont Group of Financial Intelligence Units, the Senate, by resolution, mandated the Senate Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes to present a draft bill to create an autonomous Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, NFIU. This was in consideration of the huge implications to our fight against corruption and other grave economic and political implications, and in further consideration of the imminent annual recess of the National Assembly, which will impact the deadline given to Nigeria to comply with the requirements of the group. The first reading of bill was taken on Thursday, 20th July 2017. What is Financial Intelligence Unit? One, the Financial Intelligence Unit is essentially to provide financial intelligence to all law enforcement agencies and other relevant agencies and ministries. For example, the Department of State Security, Nigeria Police Force, Nigeria Customs Service, the ICPC, and the FCC, the Nigerian Immigration Service, the NAPTIP, the NDLA, Directorate of Military Intelligence, the NIA, the Federal Ministries of Justice, Finance, and Interior, the Federal Inland Revenue Service, and to all the financial regulators, such as the Central Bank of Nigeria, Securities and Exchange Commission, National Insurance Commission, and many other relevant governmental agencies, in addition to facilitating the oversight responsibilities of the National Assembly. The nature of the operations of these agencies places premium on confidentiality in their operations of these agencies, of the relationship with NFIU. This confidentiality can hardly be achieved if the NFIU is operating as a department of one of the agencies. 2. You may recall that Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit is currently domiciled with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, as a department as provided by Section 123C of the EFCC Establishment Act 2004. This provision has, however, been found inconsistent with the international standards, has affected the task force and the Egmont group of FIUs and other FIUs of at least 153 countries. Furthermore, when fully enabled, the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit should enjoy the benefit of the privileged information which the members of the groups share among themselves. This intelligence sharing is crucial to the universal and local war against corruption, money laundering, terrorism, financing, financial and economic crimes, etc. For example, by virtue of our membership, Nigeria relies on the Egmont Group for assistance in the investigation of crimes listed above, as all bank accounts and other assets or suspects are made available to the country, wherever they are located in the world. The compelling reasons why the NFIU should be independent. The Financial Action Task Force standards on money laundering and financing of terrorism under Recommendation 9 of 2012 set out basic principles and objectives of a financial intelligence unit as follows. Quote, countries should establish a financial intelligence unit that serves as a national center for the receipt and analysis of suspicious transaction reports and all other information relevant to money laundering and terrorist financing for the nation of the results of the analysis to relevant agencies, that is, the law enforcement agencies. 6. Further, Article 58 of the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, 2005, emphasized the need for the FIU to be established by state parties, and it reads, quote, state parties shall consider establishing financial intelligence unit to be responsible for receiving, analyzing, and disseminating to competent authorities reports of suspicious financial transactions, unquote. The NFIU is currently a member of Egmont Group of FIUs. The Egmont Group is the global body that sets standards for FIUs operations and is made up of 153 FIUs from different jurisdictions and countries. The Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit was admitted in 2007, but is yet to meet up with the group's principles on confidentiality, security, and operational independence of the FIU. As a result of Nigeria's failure to grant the NFIU operational autonomy, the group at its July 2017 meeting in China, precisely 5th of this month, suspended NFIU till January 2018 with a threat of expulsion if Nigeria did not meet the standards of the group the standards of the group with regards to its operations. 8. There have been several reports by the International Monetary Fund, IMF, GIABA, Egmont Group of FIUs reflect the urgent need for the NFIU to have a different framework from the EFCC and to ensure that a budget is provided for the NFIU through the appropriation budget so as to ensure the security of information and data in the NFIU. That the plenary cannot exist. And 9. The GIABA plenary in Accra made the following observations. Quote, that the plenary cannot exit Nigeria from the expedited regular follow-up process to the voluntary biannual process on grounds of certain remaining deficiencies pointed out by the working group on mutual evaluation and implementation during its meeting of Tuesday, May 7, 2013. The outstanding issues are A. Lack of operational autonomy of NFIU. B. Lack of comprehensive legislation on mutual legal assistance. C. Lack of a comprehensive legislation on recovery of stolen assets and proceeds of crime. 10. This Senate, indeed, the National Assembly, is steadily and incrementally fulfilling the requirements for meeting the standards of the Egmont Group, and indeed that of Financial Action Task Force. We have passed the Mutual Legal Assistance Bill. We are on the verge of passing the Proceeds of Crime Bill. This bill is in furtherance of the fulfillment of those requirements. 11. It is in the light of the above that the yearning need for the establishment of the NFIU by clearly defining its mandate in a law as an autonomous entity can be located. observed challenges on the NFI as domiciled in the FCC. 12. A few examples of the concerns faced by the NFIU currently are described below. A. The Commission is the term recognized under the Money Laundering Prohibition Act 2011 and not the NFIU, even in areas where the NFIU is the only recognized entity to perform those functions related to the receipt of suspicious transactions reports. As such, the NFIU is constantly confronted with situations where such reports are rendered to various units of the EFCC in clear breach and departure from the intended rationale behind the establishment of the NFIU. A good example is Section 6 of the Money Laundering, the MLP Act of 2011 as amended 2012. B. The attended non-cooperation of other law enforcement agencies in working with the NFIU is as a result of lack of confidence in the independence of NFIU and clear definition of the mandate of the NFIU, which should be distinct from mandate of EFCC. C. The fact that in the past few years, EFCC has continued to unilaterally remove the heads of the NFIU is a clear indication that it is not autonomous. D. The need for high-level confidentiality in the conduct of NFIU cannot be guaranteed as is currently constituted. E. Inadequate funding is hindering the implementation of the core functions of the NFIU, as no separate budgetary provisions have been made for it in the EFCC budget. Even the effort we made, the EFCC refused to follow up on that because they don't want the independence of this body. 13. In practical terms, the question is whether Nigeria really has a financial intelligence unit. Strictly speaking, we do not have a FIU, as what is currently in existence is an EFCC department, glorified as FIU. 14. It is important to point out that the reason why FATF prescribes for an independent FIU is to maintain checks and balances and prevent the manipulation of financial intelligence. For Nigeria to meet the standards of FATF and EGMON, the NFIA must have the following powers as set out in the bill. A. Powers to receive disclosures from reporting entities such as banks, capital market operators, insurance companies, and the broad exchange relating to suspicious transactions and other reports such as currency transaction reports and custom declarations. B. Powers to undertake operational analysis. This includes the power to analyze the information to ensure that where crime is committed, including terrorism, the information can be transmitted to relevant law enforcement agencies such as DSS, ONSA, DMI, EFCC, ICPC, NSC, DC, NIS, NCS, NAPTIP, MPF, and DIA, etc. C. The power to work with the regulators to ensure compliance by financial institutions and non-financial institutions with the anti-money laundering laws and financing of terrorism measures. D. The power to undertake strategic analysis in order to understand crime patterns and to advise government based on patterns of the best policy available to prevent a agency until after the NFIU has analyzed it and considered it fit to be sent to a law enforcement agency. However, because of lack of independence at the moment and because of location of NFIU in the EFCC, the NFIU lacks independence and lacks security and confidentiality for its information. The NFIU does not have powers to secure its information because it is within the EFCC premises and within the EFCC ICT platform, thus giving the EFCC undue advantage over other law enforcement agencies, which should not be. H. Powers to act as the only one central agency for the receipt, analysis, and dissemination of financial intelligence. I. Powers to have adequate financial, human, and technical resources. J. Powers to ensure that each staff maintains high professional standards, including standards to maintain high integrity. K. Powers to ensure that FIUs can engage independently with other agencies and international bodies without interference. L. The FIU must also comply with the Egmont Group's statement of purpose and principles for information exchange between financial intelligence units for money laundering and terrorist financing cases. Overview of the Financial Intelligence Agency Bill. The bill has 8 sections and 8 parts. The part covers the following issues. Part 1, objectives of the bill. Part 2, establishment of Nigerian Financial Intelligence Agency. Part 3, management and staff of the agency. Part 4, financial provisions. 5, supervision and monitoring by the agency. 6, application of countermeasures and risk management. Part 7, legal proceedings against the agency. Part 8, miscellaneous provisions. The major highlights of the bill are: A, the bill creates an autonomous financial intelligence agency in accordance with international best practices. B, for purposes of institutional location and logistical support, and in line with what obtains in other jurisdictions, the agency is domiciled in the Central Bank of Nigeria, not as a department or unit, but for institutional support. For clarity, this provision bears further illumination. I, all the 14 FIUs in West Africa are administrative in nature. None except Nigeria is located in a law enforcement center, as could be seen below. Ghana, independent board and the executive director, located under Ministry of Finance. Gambia, independent director and board, located in the Central Bank. Senegal, Benin, Cote d'Ivoire, Mali, Togo, independent directors and board, located under Ministry of Finance. 2, majority of the administrative FIU the world over are domiciled in Ministry of Finance, Justice, or Central Bank. In United States of America, where you have many law enforcement agencies, such as Nigeria, the FIU is administrative and is located in the Treasury Department. The FIUs in Canada, Australia, etc. are also administrative. In Canada, Australia, Belgium, France, it is located in Ministry of Finance. C, to ensure operational independence, the bill provides that the budgetary allocations to the agency shall be a first-line charge on the consolidated revenue charge of the federal government. The consequential amendments that will be made to existing law are as follows. A, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission Establishment Act 2004 is amended by deleting Section 1(2)(c), Section C(j) 4, and 6(l) of the Act, among others. B, the Money Laundering Prohibition Act 2011 as amended is amended in Sections 1, 4, 5, 6, and 13 by substituting the words Commission and the Federal Ministry of Commerce with the words Nigeria Financial Intelligence Agency, among others. Financial Compendium. Since the NFIU is already in existence, the Senate is now required to give the NFIU an enabling law, and this will not create additional financial burden on the Treasury. This is because the NFIU has existing office and personnel that are currently on EFCC payroll. What will be required is take-off grants. 19, Mr. President, across the world, 153 FIUs, such as the Financial Intelligence FIC of Ghana, CENTIF of Senegal, CENTIF of Cote d'Ivoire, FIC of South Africa, FinCEN of USA, UK FIU, FinTrack of Canada, and FIU India have ministerial level supervision in order to ensure its operational independence and to assess funding from their parliaments. The huge embarrassment of the suspension of Nigeria from Egmont Group that had described the approach by EFCC as cock and shoot should be stopped. And the pending visit of the FAT high-level mission to Nigeria to evaluate preparedness towards its membership of the task force makes it all more urgent as we move fast to meet this global requirement, because by November, the Financial Action Task Force evaluation team will be in Nigeria here to help to assess us, so that if not can attain observer status that will lead to a full membership of FATFF. 20, in conclusion, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I crave your indulgence to support this bill and ensure its accelerated passage. Thank you so much.
Okay, before you take your seat, the consequential amendment you are referring to, are you going to make it in this bill, or are you going to bring another amendment? You spoke about the consequential amendment to the existing acts.
Thank you, Mr. President. They are all already done. They are
all right, thank you. Thank you. Yes, Senator Nala.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and my distinguished colleague. I think this is one of the most industrious pursuits to address what appears to be a problem that ordinarily should not have arisen. Mr. President, I've had the privilege of knowing when the Financial Action Task Force of Nigeria was formally established under the presidency under the then President Abacha. And we had to go out of our way in order to meet the criteria to get one Dr. Shehu to establish an independent autonomous office under the presidency at that time at the Federal Secretariat under the Ministry of Justice. And the reason being that the autonomy of this very institution was what was agreed internationally. And the reason is that it is to address high-profile crimes, terrorism, drug trafficking. No, that is when the concept of money laundering came about. And then, because these crimes involve large sums of money, it means the movement of money across borders has to be taken care of by way of making sure that there is an institution that will monitor and see what are these monies for, that can distinguish between legitimate money being moved for the purpose of business and then those for the purpose of crime. How this institution was emasculated and then brought under EFCC, I cannot really understand. So with this move, I will urge my colleagues that we will do the needful now by at least passing this bill as quickly as possible to avoid the visit of the mission, so that at least aware of the fact that we have passed the mutual legal assistance bill and we have the FIU in place, we will have met at least 90% of the requirements to be able to be readmitted back to Egmont. And I think that by doing this, we will be doing a great assistance to our country, Nigeria, to at least show that we possess the capacity to live in accordance with what we have signed for by way of conventions. And I am of the opinion that it's a very straightforward matter that does not need too much debate, because it's reasonably necessary at this time.
Senator Bassi.
I have formally seconded the...
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished and respected colleagues, Mr. President, I rise to support this bill, and I believe my name is Senator Albert Bassi, Akwa Northeast. Mr. President, this Senate, I'm very privileged to be a part of this Senate because I've learned a lot from it since I came in here. This Senate has been at the forefront of our national renaissance since we came, even in the face of intimidation, even in the face or even of stopping some of our powers by the executive. I believe that the content of this debate is very clear. And I also believe that very strongly, Mr. President, that we are doing what is right and what we believe will enhance our national integrity in the Committee of States. And it is also very clear, Mr. President, in the context of this debate, that we are at the verge of bridging most of the international conventions that we are signatories to. So I support this bill in totality, and I believe that a platform of this nature will act as a universal body where all the agencies of government will tap into it and get the authentic intelligence and information that is much required to carry out their activities. So I support this in totality, and I urge all my colleagues to add their voice to this bill so that once it's passed into law, it will ensure and achieve the much desire and objective for our people. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. Thank you, distinguished colleague. I think this is very straightforward. The lead debate was quite exhaustive. So I think it makes sense that we just go straight and put the question. Well, those who support that this bill be read the second time, say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the bill for an act to establish the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Agency as the central body in Nigeria responsible for receiving, requesting, analyzing, and disseminating financial intelligence reports and other information to law enforcement, security and intelligence agencies and other relevant authorities, and for related matters, 2017, second reading.
Dear colleagues, a bill for an act to establish the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Agency as the central body in Nigeria responsible for receiving, requesting, analyzing, and disseminating financial intelligence reports and other information to law enforcement, security and intelligence agencies, and other relevant authorities, and for related matters, 2017, second reading taken, and refer to the Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes to report back tomorrow. Mr. Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second order of the day is the second reading of the Demutualization Bill 2017. Order! Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Wednesday, 19th July 2017. Mr. President, may we invite Senator Foster Ogola to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Second, Senator Foster.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Your Excellency, the President of the Senate, and distinguished colleagues. I am Foster Ogola. I represent Bayelsa West Senatorial District. I rise to present to you, distinguished colleagues, a lead debate for a bill for an act to facilitate the development of Nigeria's capital market by enabling the conversion and re-registration of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, NSE, from a company limited by guarantee to a company limited by shares, and to provide other related and ancillary matters, 2017. Demutualization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange Bill 2017. This bill seeks to facilitate the expeditious conversion and re-registration of the Nigerian Stock Exchange from a company limited by guarantee to a public company limited by shares, in order to adopt and efficiently implement the global best practices of the demutualization of stock exchanges. The Nigerian Stock Exchange plays a major role in Nigeria's financial market, and its conversion and re-registration into a public company limited by shares is essential to develop and strengthen the Nigerian capital market, and will enhance the formation of capital for the expansion of the Nigerian economy. In a bid to stimulate economic growth, the Securities and Exchange Commission advised various strategies in its Capital Market Master Plan 2015 to 2025, aimed at ensuring that the Nigerian capital market attains and remains modern, efficient, and internationally competitive. Key among the strategies include improving liquidity, competitiveness, and attractiveness in the domestic capital market, as well as promoting good corporate governance to boost investors' confidence. In line with the Capital Market Master Plan, the proposed demutualization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange aims at, among others, promoting efficiency in the creation and harnessing of capital, as well as creating liquidity in the market and adopting and strengthening corporate governance best practices. It is anticipated that the demutualization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange will reinforce the continuous growth and development of a dynamic, fair, transparent, and efficient capital market, and thus significantly contribute to Nigeria's economic development. The main objectives of this bill are to enable, commence, and facilitate the mutualization
of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, mutual company. Presently, the Nigerian Stock Exchange is a mutual company. A mutual company is a private company created to provide specific services at the lowest possible price to benefit its users and members. Therefore, a mutual company is a private company whose ownership base is made up of its clients or policyholders. The defining feature of a mutual company, which is a company limited by the guarantee of its owners, is that its customers, who are also entitled to receive profits or income generated by the mutual company, in this case, the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Distinguished colleagues, stocks, which term are also called equity or shares.
Senator Foster, this year the debate, is it possible to summarize it? Since we won't have it. So if you go to page 7, rationale, I'm sure it will summarize this. So that since we all have the copies, and they're still going to the committee.
Given best practices and exchanges in the world, we have 64 exchanges, out of which Nigeria is yet to belong to. When the Nigerian Stock Exchange is demutualized, as against today, because currently the NSE is currently a mutual company limited by guarantee, whose shares cannot be listed on the floor of its exchange and traded, have no capacity to raise capital, and is not competing with global best practice. But the post-demutualization NSE will enable the implementation of a fair and just transition process, which will involve all interested parties in a fair, equitable manner. It will promote facilitation of a fair representation and actualization of the investment needs and interests of the local, foreign, private, public, individual, and institutional investors alike. The NSE's operational structure changes after demutualization from a mutual company limited by guarantee to a company limited by shares. The NSE ownership will change from members to shareholders. Members of the exchange are given shares for their membership and decouple share ownership from trading rights for dealing members, and actualize the introduction of new products on the exchange, such as options, securities, loans, asset-backed securities. It will create a deeper and more liquid financial market that would facilitate the funding of long-term national development structures.
I thought we agreed you go to page 7. Go to page 7. Rationale.
I wish to conclude this debate as follows. A demutualized Nigerian Stock Exchange will create the following advantage. 1, commercial orientation. It will become a profit-making company. It will create strategic alliances, giving them the ability to offer equity in domestic and international markets. Demutualization will make the NSE regional integration possible and have the capacity to merge with regional exchanges. Capital raising is another advantage of the NSE's demutualization. That is our ability to access financing locally and internationally. It will enhance investment technology, foster innovation, diversification of its products, and provide an exit option for current investors can cash out when they like. Incentive to employees will be another advantage, and alignment of interests consequentially with shareholders. Improved and enhance regulatory roles, reduce conflict of interest within the capital market, improve governance, separation of ownership from trading rights, and finally, improve competitiveness, moral, agile market management structure. This bill does not have any financial implication on the federal government of Nigeria because the Nigerian Stock Exchange is an existing, functional, self-regulatory organization owned by the members with self-funding capacity. I wish to therefore distinguish colleagues and Mr. President move, as well as crave the indulgence of Your Excellencies, to pass this bill for an act to facilitate the development of Nigeria's capital market by enabling the conversion and re-registration of the Nigerian Stock Exchange from a company limited by guarantee to a public company limited by shares, and to provide for other related and ancillary matters 2017, otherwise known as demutualization of the Nigeria Stock Exchange Bill 2017, for second reading. I so move.
Senator Mao.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, my name is Senator Mao Aruko Huabunga, representing Abia North Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished senators, I rise to second this motion that this bill pass second reading. But doing that, I want to state that irrespective of all the grammar, that this is just a simple thing, because Nigeria, we are at the level of privatization, commercialization, and what have you. All we are saying is that moving this company from a private company to a public limited concern, that is to become a PLC, where individuals can invest and be part of it. Whether it's demutualization or other grammar, I think it's simple. So I'm urging our colleagues that this is simple. Just let's support that this bill goes through second reading so that Nigerian Stock Exchange will become a public limited company. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Speaker, is anybody against this bill? Let me put it. Those in favor that this bill be read the second time say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk will send.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to facilitate the development of Nigerian capital markets by enabling the conversion and re-registration of the Nigerian Stock Exchange from a company limited by guarantee to a public company limited by shares and for other related matters, 2017, second reading.
A bill for an act to facilitate the development of Nigeria's capital market by enabling the conversion and re-registration of Nigerian Stock Exchange from a company limited by a guarantee to a public company limited by shares and for other matters related, 2017, second reading taken. This bill is referred to the Committee on Capital Markets, report back in 4 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the third order of the day is the consideration of the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the issues surrounding the adoption of the Conference Committee report on the Nigerian Peace Corps Establishment ETC Bill 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator David Umaru to move the motion for the Senate to consider the report of the committee.
Senator David Umaru.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is David Umaru. I represent Niger East. Mr. President, I rise to move the motion that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the issues surrounding the adoption of the Conference Committee report on Nigerian Peace Corps Establishment Bill 2017. I so move.
Senator Sekibo.
Mr. President, I rise to move that the Senate do consider the report as presented by the Committee on Judiciary. To second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do receive and consider a report of the Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters on the issues surrounding the adoption of the Conference Committee report on Nigerian Peace Corps, NPAC, establishing etc. Bill 2017 SB 173183. Say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator David Moore, present your report, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Senate at its plenary sitting on Tuesday, 2nd May 2017, deliberated on the report of the Conference Committee on Nigerian Peace Corps Establishment Bill 2017, presented by the chairman of the Conference Committee, Senator Bayero Usman Nafada. After presentation of the report, sundry issues were raised, which elicited debate for and against the consideration of the conference report. After extensive deliberations, the Senate, in its wisdom, deferred consideration of the conference report and mandated the Senate Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters to look into the issues raised and report back. For the avoidance of doubt, it should be stated that the bill was passed in the House of Representatives on the 9th June 2016 and by the Senate on 24th November 2016. After the passage of the bill by the two chambers, some differences were noticed in the two versions as passed. Accordingly, the Conference Committee was constituted both in the Senate and the House of Representatives. The Conference Committee deliberated on the areas of differences and harmonized them accordingly. Following the harmonization, the Conference Committee report was presented and adopted by the House of Reps. I will take only the Committee Legislative Action, Item 3. In order to have a proper understanding of the issues raised at the plenary, the committee obtained a Senate Hansard, that is the official record of proceedings of that day. Also, the committee had regard to the views expressed by distinguished senators for and against the consideration of the report, in order for the committee to look into the issues, which hopefully might be resolved to enable the Senate to go ahead with the report. Accordingly, the committee distilled the following issues, which are listed there. I will go to the recommendation, with your permission, Mr. President. Observations and findings. Page 17. Flowing from the one, that it is on record that the Senate is not considering the bill afresh, but is addressing the uncertainties surrounding the Peace Corps that were raised at the plenary when the conference report was presented. Two, that the issues raised by the distinguished senators at the plenary are fundamental and they go to the root of the cause of operations which are subject of litigation. That the operation of an organization like the Peace Corps in other jurisdictions, particularly in the U.S., the American Peace Corps, as it is called, which is used as a model, does not operate as a permanent and pensionable employment as intended in Nigeria under the proposed legislation. Rather, its employment is for a limited period of 5 years only for regular employees and 24 months for volunteers. 4, that the operation of the Peace Corps is limited to social and economic development only in other jurisdictions as indicated in their mandate, pursuant to Section 591 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 1990, in the case of Nigerian Peace Corps. See page 16. And 5, that the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Senator David, why don't you just go straight to recommendation?
Arising from presentations made by stakeholders and flowing from our observations and findings, the Senate Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters to which was referred this report, having considered same, recommends thus that the Senate may wish to consider the report of the Conference Committee on the Nigerian Peace Corps Establishment Bill 2017 as recommended. Finally, we wish to thank Mr. President for the opportunity given to this committee to serve. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, I think this is a straightforward recommendation. So I'll just put the question. Those in favor of the recommendation say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fourth order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the conference report on the Nigerian Peace Corps Bill 2017. Distinguished senators will recall that the Senate and the House passed different versions of the Nigerian Peace Corps Bill 2017. The conference report committee of both houses have met and harmonized the differences in accordance with the Senate Standing Order 87. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Bayero Nafada to move the motion for the Senate to receive and consider the conference report.
Senator Bayero Nafada.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Usman Bayero Nafada. I'm from Gombe State. May I move that the Senate do consider the Conference Committee report on the Nigerian Peace Corps Establishment ETC Bill 2017. I so move, Mr. President.
Senator James Manager.
Thank you, Mr. President, my respected colleagues, James Manager, CEO, and Delta South. Mr. President, I rise to second the motion ably moved by Senator Nafada that we take the conference report on this Peace Corps bill. But in doing so, Mr. President, my respected colleagues, if you recall, the last time we had the opportunity to consider this conference report, we had indeed considered the report. And what is remaining now, Mr. President, is just to put the question. Thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do consider the Conference Committee report on the Nigerian Peace Corps Establishment, etc., Bill 2017, SB 173 and 183, say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Bayero Nafada, present your report, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Like my colleague has just said, that the report was presented before the Senate, and it was just an issue that was that arose about the court matter between the commandant and the Nigerian police, and that has been sorted out by the chairman of judiciary. So what is left, Mr. President, is for the adoption of the report. May I wish to lay the report, Mr. President?
Okay. It's just for me to put a question. All right. Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do approve the Conference Committee report on Nigerian Peace Corps Establishment Bill 2017, say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues, for that long journey. We finally got to the promised land. I thank you for the support. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fifth order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on the Review of the 1999 Constitution on 27 Constitution Alteration Bills 2017. Distinguished senators will recall that the report of the committee was laid on Thursday, 20th July 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite very distinguished Senator Ike Ekweremadu, the DSP, to move the motion for the presentation and consideration of the reports, one after the other. I so move.
Deputy Senate President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues. I rise to move that this Senate do not consider a report of the Committee on Constitutional Review on the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, Alteration Bills 2017. I so move.
Senator Aidoku.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues. My name is Senator Atai Aidoku Ali. I represent Kogi East. I second the motion as moved by the Deputy Senate President that the Senate do consider the report of the Constitutional Review Committee. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do consider the report of the Committee on Constitutional Review on the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended Alteration Bill 2017 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Dear Deputy Senate President.
Thank you, sir. Distinguished colleagues, this committee, you will recall, was constituted on Tuesday, the 22nd of December 2015, and inaugurated on Tuesday, 13 January 2016, by the President of the Senate with a clear mandate to reprocess issues considered in the 7th Assembly that had gained national consensus and enjoyed goodwill from the public. It was also tasked with the responsibility of aggregating the views of Nigerians on aspects of the Constitution that requires alteration, as well as the preparation of a draft constitutional alteration bill or bills. However, between the period of the committee's inauguration and now, several constitutional amendment bills were referred to us, most of which borders on governance issues that have agitated the minds of Nigerians. You will see the membership of the committee, very elaborate. Legislative action. The constitutional review process has so far been driven by the principles of inclusiveness, popular participation, and transparency, with national interest as the lodestar, even as expert opinions were not ignored. In these deliberations on amendment proposals, comments from stakeholders and strategic partners, report of experts, feedback on bills referred to it, the committee was constrained to assess not only the popularity of the proposals, but also their value and workability in the context of Nigeria. Of course, citizens' views have been carefully integrated into every recommendation. It must be underlined, however, that these views were appraised in the context of their compatibility with the Constitution, as well as with democratic principles and national unity in general. Similarly, the committee observed that while some of the bills referred to it were not comprehensive enough, but rife with ambiguities, some do not promote the spirit of separation of powers in a presidential system of government, while some of the issues raised are better treated as conventional than codified in our Constitution. Such issues were subsequently abandoned. Furthermore, the committee held a retreat from 16 to 19 June 2016, that was last year, that brought together federal and state legislators, experts, and civil society organizations to deliberate on key constitutional issues and come up with concrete constitutional amendment proposals for the 8th Senate. The retreat was a valuable strategizing experience, sharing as well as a learning event. It built on the discussions and outcomes of the 7th Senate Constitutional Amendment exercise, discussed new developments, challenges, and how to address them in relation to the 8th Senate strategic and operational priorities with regard to constitutional amendment. You will recall that the committee presented an interim report in December 2016 and promised to make a full report after further consultations and strategic meeting with the House of Representatives. Thereafter, the bills referred were consolidated and disaggregated, drawing from lessons learned in the botched 7th Assembly Constitutional Review process. The committee consolidated and clustered amendments proposals into appropriate thematic and sectional heads. While some amendment proposals were incorporated into existing Senate bills, others were grouped thematically. Additionally, some amendments that could not fit into any of the above classifications were produced as standalone bills. These clusters are given different short titles, such as the 4th Alteration Bill, numbers 1, 2, 3, etc. The reason for this is to ensure that the rejection of section or sections dealing with an issue does not affect other sections dealing with different unconnected issues. This is to forestall the unfortunate experience of the 7th Assembly's constitutional alteration process, which, after satisfying the provisions of Section 9 of the Constitution, was not assented to by the President. Subsequently, the committee held a joint working retreat with the House of Representatives Committee on Review of the 1999 Constitution, as well as speakers and representatives of State House of Assembly on the 14th to 15th July 2017. The aim of the joint working retreat was to review and validate amendment proposals contained in draft constitutional amendment bills drawn by a team of experts. This report therefore highlights clauses in the draft alteration bills recommended for adoption by the Joint Committee of the Senate and the House of Representatives. Recommendation. In the light of the foregoing, and in line with the wishes of the people of Nigeria, the need to strengthen institutions of government for greater efficiency and to deliver the common good of state, the committee hereby recommends these bills for consideration and passage by the Senate. Below are the highlights of the bills which are attached to this report. First, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 4th Alteration Bill number 1 of 2017. Composition of members of the Council of States. This bill seeks to amend the text schedule to include former presidents of the Senate and speakers of the House of Representatives in the composition of the Council of State. As of today, former heads of state, in addition to the present head of state, the vice president is Chief Justice of the Federation, and former CJNs are all members of the Federation of the National Council of States. We believe that, in fairness to the legislative arm of government, it is appropriate that the former heads of the legislature should be members of the National Council of States. Number 2, Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 4th Alteration Bill number 2 of 2017. This seeks to alter sections 82 and 122 of the Constitution to reduce the period within which the President or Governor of a state may authorize the withdrawal of monies from the Consolidated Revenue Fund in the absence of an appropriation act from 6 months to 3 months. We believe that this will help the executive to bring the budget on time and the Parliament to also pass it in record time. 3. Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 4th Alteration Bill number 3, devolution of powers. This seeks to alter the second schedule, part 1 and 2, to move certain items to the concurrent legislative list to give more legislative powers to states. It also delineates the extent to which the federal legislature and state assemblies can legislate on items that will be moved to the concurrent legislative list. So we believe that if this bill is passed, more powers will devolve to the states. For instance, in the case of power, we believe that the states can generate power. They can also distribute powers as well. So this will help to activate economic activities in the states. We also believe that railway should also be part of and parcel of what the states can also engage in. But presently, all these and more are contained in the exclusive legislative list of the Federation. Number 4, Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 4th Alteration, number 4, financial autonomy of state legislatures. This alteration seeks to provide for the funding of the House of Assembly of State directly from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the states. 5, Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 4th Alteration Bill number 5, distribution of pool account. This bill seeks to alter section 162 of the Constitution to abrogate the state joint local government accounts and empower each local government council to maintain its own special account into which all allocations due to the local government council shall be directly paid from the federation account and from the government of the state, and also to make provision for savings in the federation account before distribution to other levels of government. As of today, all monies that we earn as a country go into the account which is called the federation account, and it is distributed to the states, the federal government, and local governments, and no effort is being made to save money. So when the Sovereign Wealth Fund was set up, it was difficult to provide money for the running of the Sovereign Wealth Fund, to save money through that process, because the Constitution did not make provision for savings. So the governors, in the Governors Forum, went to the Supreme Court. The matter is still in court, but we believe that there's need to save money for the rainy day and also for the generations that will take over from us. And so we are recommending that 10% of all monies at any time in the federation account should be saved for the rainy day and for the future generation of this country before distributions are made. And these monies will not be touched until at least 5 years from the date it was so saved. Number 6, Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 4th Alteration, Bill number 6, local government. The alterations here are aimed at strengthening local government administration in Nigeria by guaranteeing the democratic existence, funding, and tenure of local government councils. So going forward, if this succeeds, we're believing that local government in the country will all be democratically elected, and anyone that's not democratically elected will not benefit from the federation account. 7, Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 4th Alteration Bill number 7, State Creation and Border Adjustment. This essentially seeks to alter Section 8 of the Constitution to ensure that only democratically elected local government councils participate in the process of state creation and boundary adjustment. It also removes ambiguities in extant provisions to enhance clarity with respect to the procedure for state creation. Number 8, Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 4th alteration, number 8, the legislature. This alteration seeks, among other things, to alter sections 4, 51, 67, 68, 93, and 109 of the Constitution to provide immunity for members of the legislature in respect of words spoken or written at plenary session or at committee proceedings, institutionalize legislative bureaucracy in the Constitution just like the Civil Service Commission in the Executive and Judicial Service Commission in Judiciary. So we're going to have the National Assembly and State Assembly Commissions in the Constitution. And this also will obligate the President to attend a joint meeting of the National Assembly once a year to deliver a State of the Nation address, which is consistent with the practice in almost all the countries of the world, including African countries. You have it in Zimbabwe, South Africa, Ghana, Kenya, and so many other countries. So Nigeria needs to have a day in which the President will present the State of the Nation address to the people of Nigeria. Number 9, Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 4th alteration, Bill number 9. This seeks to alter Section 134 and 179 to provide sufficient time for INEC to conduct by-elections, and Section 225 to empower Independent National Electoral Commission to register political parties for non-fulfillment of certain conditions, such as breach of registration requirements and failure to secure or win either a presidential, governorship, local government chairmanship, or a seat in the National or State Assembly or a councillorship. The first part of this amendment is suggesting that sometimes you have a situation where there's no clear winner in the case of the president or the governor. Under the present provision in the Constitution, INEC has only 7 days to conduct a by-election. Sometimes it's insufficient to deal with this. So INEC is requesting that this time frame be increased from 7 days to 21 days to enable them to have sufficient time, possibly to print ballot papers and that we use and other logistics so that there will be a perfect process. 10. Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 4th alteration, Bill number 10, presidential assent. This seeks to alter Section 58, 59, and 100 to resolve the impasse where the President or Governor neglects to signify his or her assent to a bill from the National Assembly or State Assembly or withhold such assent. This is to enable timely passage of laws for good governance. What this seeks to achieve, because presently in the Constitution there seems to be a lacuna. The President and Governor...
Yeah, point of order, Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I move that we suspend our Order 13 to enable the Senate to sit beyond 2 o'clock. Thank you.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the point that we sit beyond 2 p.m. Today, I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Deputy Senate President.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. This amendment, number 10 of 2017, is seeking to deal with the issue that has to do with presidential assent or the assent of the governor. As presently in the Constitution, once a bill is passed, it's sent to the President in the case of the national and the governor in the states. And under the Constitution, the President or the governor has 30 days to sign the bill. And now we have found a situation where sometimes these bills are not signed within 30 days and they're neither returned. And so some of those things, those bills never came back to the National Assembly. And so we are seeking to provide a time frame within which they'll be signed. And if they are not signed within that period, they are deemed to have been signed. And this is consistent with presidential practice. In America, if the Congress passes a bill and sends to the President, and within 14 days he does not sign or does not withhold his assent, it automatically becomes law. But in our own circumstance, there's no such provision. So we are making a provision. Instead of 14 days as in America, we are providing 30 days. Number 11, Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 4th alteration, Bill number 11, time frame for submitting the names of ministerial or commissioners' nominees. This bill seeks to alter the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, to set time frame within which the President or a Governor shall forward to the Senate or State House Assembly names of nominees for confirmation as ministers or commissioners and provide for attachment of portfolios and 35% affirmative action for women. What this is saying is that after 30 days from the date of inauguration, the president or the governor is expected to send the list of his commissioners or the ministers, as the case may be, and in sending the names, they will come with the portfolios which the president or the governor proposed to give to these ministers. Now, you recall in the last 2 years, we've had a situation where we did not receive the names of the ministers until 6 months into the life of the administration. And in case of states, like I think Oshun, Gombe, and a few other states, the commissioners were never in place until 1 year or more after the administration, after the governor or the governors took their oath of office. I would believe that this is not acceptable. Now, number 12, Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 4th Alteration Bill number 12 for 2017, appointment of ministers for the FCT. The bill seeks to alter Section 147 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, to provide for the appointment of a minister from the FCT, Abuja, to ensure that the FCT is represented in the Executive Council of the Federation. 13. Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 4th Alteration Bill number 13 of 2017, change of names of some local government councils. This bill seeks to alter the Constitution to provide for change in the names of some local government councils and the definition of the boundary of the FCT, Abuja. For example, in Ebonyi State, we have Afikpo South, we have Afikpo North. We discovered that Afikpo South, for instance, there's no part of Afikpo that's included in Afikpo South. It's mainly the people of Edda that constitute the Afikpo South. So this amendment seeks to appropriately name the local government Edda instead of Afikpo South to reflect the actual people who are living there. So the same thing with Egbeda South and Egbeda North in Ogun State. Now, 14. Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 4th Alteration Bill number 14 of 2017, independent candidature. This seeks to alter Section 65, 106, 131, 177 of the Constitution. This is aimed at expanding the political space and broadening the options for the electorate by allowing for independent candidacy in all elections. 15. Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 4th Alteration Bill number 15, 2017, the police. This bill seeks to alter the Constitution in sections 34, 35, 39, 214, 215, 216, and the third schedule. Order! To change the name of the police from Nigerian Police Force to just Nigerian Police in order to reflect their core mandates. 16. Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 4th Alteration Bill number 16, 2017, restriction of tenure of the President and Governors. This bill seeks to restrict a person who was sworn in as President or Governor to complete the term of the elected President from contesting for the same office for more than one term. Yes. 17. Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 4th Alteration Bill number 17, separation of the office of the Accountant General. The bill seeks to alter Section 84 of the Constitution to establish the office of the Accountant General of the Federal Government, separate from the office of the Accountant General of the Federation. 18. Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 4th Alteration Bill number 18, 2017, office of the Auditor General. This bill seeks to make the office of the Auditor General for the Federation and for the state financially independent by placing them on first-line charges and consolidated revenue funds in the consolidated revenue fund of the Federation and of the states. 19. Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 4th Alteration Bill number 19, separation of the office of the Attorney General of the Federation and of the state from the office of the Minister or Commissioner for Justice. This bill seeks to alter Section 150, 174, 195, 211, 318, and third schedule to the Constitution to separate the office of the Minister or Commissioner for Justice from that of the Attorney General of the Federation and of states, so as to create an independent office of the Attorney General of the Federation, insulated from partisanship. It also seeks to redefine the role of the Attorney General, provide a fixed tenure, provide the age and qualification for appointment, and also for a more stringent process for the removal of the Attorney General. 20. Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 4th Alteration Bill number 20, 2017, dealing with the judiciary. This bill contains a vast array of alterations with regard to the judiciary, such as the composition of the National Judicial Council and empowering justices of the Supreme Court and Court of Appeal to hear certain applications in chambers, thereby enhancing the speedy dispensation of justice. 21. Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 4th Alteration Bill number 21 of 2017, determination of pre-election matters This bill seeks to, among other things, make provision for timelines for determination of pre-election matters. Now, prior to 2010, we had issues on the time it takes to conclude election matters. Sometimes it goes as far as 4 years, 5 years. So in 2010, we were able to put that behind us by making provision in the Constitution for election matters to be determined within a given period. And that has worked for us. So as part of our effort to enhance the electoral practice, we have decided to put the same provision for pre-election matters. So pre-election matters will now be determined within 80 days from the time of filing, and then 60 days if there is any appeal arising therefrom. So that takes us to about 8 months at the most for pre-election matters, just as the election matters to be concluded. 22. Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 4th Alteration Bill number 22 of 2017, Civil Defense. This bill seeks to reflect the establishment and core functions of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps. It is a consequential amendment because of the inclusion of the National Security and Civil Defense as an item in the exclusive legislative list under the second schedule to the Constitution. 23. Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 4th Alteration Bill number 23 of 2017, Citizenship and Indigenship. This bill seeks to alter Section 225 of the Constitution to guarantee a married woman's right to choose either her indigenship by birth or by marriage for the purpose of appointment or election. 24. Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 4th Alteration Bill number 24 of 2017, Procedure for overriding presidential veto in constitutional alteration. This bill seeks to, among other things, provide for the procedure for passing the constitutional alteration bill where the president withholds assent. 25. Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 4th Alteration Bill number 25, 2017, removal of certain acts on the Constitution. This bill seeks to alter Section 315 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, to remove the law-making powers of the executive arm of government and delete the National Youth Decree, Public Complaint Commission Act, the National Security Agencies Act, and the Land Use Act from the Constitution so that they can be subject to regular process of amendment. We have further unbundled this particular bill, so we're going to have other specific bills in relation to these other issues as we go forward. 26. Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 4th Alteration Bill number 26 of 2017, Investment and Securities Tribunal. This bill seeks to establish the Investment and Securities Tribunals under the Constitution. 27. Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 4th Alteration Bill number 27 of 2017, Reduction of Age Qualification. This bill seeks to alter the section 65, 106, 131, 177 of the Constitution to reduce the age qualifications for the offices of the President and the Governor and membership of the Senate, House of Representatives, and the State House of Assembly. So if this is carried through, the age for running for President will now reduce from 40 years to 35 years. Senate will remain at 35. I will explain. Then governors will be from 35 to 30. House of Representatives will be from 30 to 25. House of Assemblies will be 25. And chairmanship positions will be 25. Now, we decided to leave the one for Senate at 35 for this reason. Now, if there is a vacancy in the office of the President and Vice President, the Senate President becomes the President for that period. And so, if his age is not the same thing with that of the President, we are going to have a constitutional crisis. So it is necessary because somebody who is in the Senate, any person in the Senate, and 35 years is the minimum anyway, can be Senate President, and that person can be President for some reason. So it is important that the age limit for the President must be the same thing with that of the Senate. Now, 28. Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 4th Alteration Bill number 28 of 2017, Authorization of Expenditure. This bill seeks to provide for the time within which the President or Governor shall lay appropriation bill before the National Assembly or House of Assembly to encourage the early presentation and passage of appropriation bill. Now, what this seeks to do is that right now the President can present the appropriation bill anytime before the end of any financial year. In order to make the appropriation process better and faster and more productive, we are now recommending to you that the President, that section 81 should be amended to say that the President will send the appropriation bill anytime, but not later than 90 days to the end of the fiscal year. So that we are expecting that at least the first week in October, the appropriation bill should be able to come, and then they should be passed before the end of the year so that the implementation will start early the following year. Now, the next 29, Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 4th Alteration Bill number 29 of 2017, deletion of the NYSC decree from the Constitution. The bill seeks to alter the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 to delete the National Youth Service Corps decree from the Constitution so that it can be subject to the regular process of amendment. 30. Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 4th Alteration Bill number 30 of 2017. Deletion of the Public Complaint Commission Act from the Constitution. This bill seeks to alter the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 to delete the Public Complaint Commission Act from the Constitution so that it can be subject to the regular process of amendment. 31. Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 4th Alteration Bill number 31 of 2017. Deletion of the National Securities Act from the Constitution. The bill seeks to alter the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 to delete the National Securities Act from the Constitution so that it can be subject to the regular process of amendment. Finally, Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 4th Alteration Bill number 32 of 2017. Deletion of the Land Use Act from the Constitution. The bill seeks to alter the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 to delete the Land Use Act from the Constitution so that it can be subject to regular process of amendment. Now, as a consequence of this, we've also proposed some amendment to the second schedule to the Constitution, placing land matters under the concurrent list and delineating the areas of authority of the federal government and the state government. Conclusion. We'd like to thank the leadership of the Senate for considering the committee and our dear colleagues for your constructive engagement with the committee and ensuring the active participation of your constituents throughout this process. At this stage, we would like to urge you to reach out to the respective House of Assembly members whom Section 9 of the Constitution have made critical and distinctive partners of this process to enlist their support in the passage of these bills. We believe that this is another milestone in the quest of repositioning our fundamental legal framework for public good. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Leader of the Senate.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, let me congratulate the chairman of the Senate Committee on the Review of the Constitution and his members for a very thorough job, very patriotic assignment. Mr. President, having said that, I want to just make an observation on Bill 28. Bill 28 is trying to make the executive make presentation of the budget 90 days, at least 90 days before the end of the financial year. Mr. President, I want to suggest that we take this one step further if it is not anywhere in the amendment we are seeking to make. That is to say that we also, the National Assembly, pass the budget before the expiration of the financial year. It's assumed we are going to pass it. But since we are saying the executive should present this before at least 90 days to this, we should also legislate on ourselves that we pass it before the end of the financial year. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Chief Whip.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'm Olushola Adeyeye from the Central Senatorial District of the State of Osun. I want to join the leader of the Nigerian Senate to again congratulate our Deputy Senate President for the leadership that he offered in the Constitution Review Committee. I want to also say that perhaps there's no better person qualified for that job, having held it now for 10 years. And to also say that as a member of that committee, I've enjoyed your leadership. I want to speak on Amendment 27. Amendment 27 seeks to reduce the age for participation in elected offices. I remember that I brought that bill. It was Senate Bill 253, which was referred to a day before my birthday last year on June 14th. When we went to committee, I argued passionately, and I lost. Gallantly. Not gallantly, sorrowfully. But I was glad, Mr. President, that when we got to the retreat, that although it had failed in the Senate, it succeeded in the House. One of the facts that makes the wisdom for a bicameral legislature. And by the time we left Lagos, I think we were all convinced that that's the way it should be. For one thing, one of the points I tried to make then is that when you look at the requirement for age for such offices across the world, the lower house and the provincial house usually is 25. And the argument is, if you are old enough to die for your country, you ought to be old enough to hold office in your country. That's why the age for voting was reduced worldwide from 21 to 18, when the age for recruitment to the military was also reduced from 21 to 18. By the same token, having been fighting for your country from the age of 18, 7 years thereafter, you should be a senior officer. Therefore, if you are old enough to be one in charge of a regiment, then you should also be able to hold. And I don't know what profession you want to practice, except for the intermittent closure of our institutions. If you want to be a doctor, usually by 25 you are one. If you want to be a lawyer, you are one. If you want to be an accountant, you are one. So if you can be all these professionals, why can't you come to the lower house of your country? In any case, across the world, 25 is the most popular, most common age. I guess because we in the Senate are a little on the older side. That's why we were not too keen. I think there is no age limit. Even when you are 100 and perhaps senile, you can run. But I don't think anybody should be afraid of young people coming into elected office very early. For one reason. One, the one who will make it on at 25 will be the star youth. The average youth will not make it. What's the requirement for the age of a senator? 40. What's the average age here? I'm sure it's in the mid-50s. No, it's not 70. If it was 70, Dili Malaya should be going to be singing Ajekun Ya New Jay in Kogi West. But thank God that even though the age is 40, the wisdom of the system doesn't elect the average 40 to come to the Senate. And I believe the same thing will hold. Therefore, I appeal to us to please support this amendment so that we can get people in their mid-30s to come to the Senate if their constituency so elects, and people in their mid-20s to come to the House of Rep if people in their constituency so elect. Thank you, Mr. President, sir.
Senator Alero.
Thank you, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, let me also join my colleagues who spoke gallantly in support of the leadership of the Deputy Senate President as the Chairman of the Constitutional Committee. We were in Lagos with him. He performed creditably well, and I'm happy with the presentation he has made. That notwithstanding, Mr. President, some of the issues that are presented, there was no unanimity. And I wish to point out some of them. Number one, the Land Use Act. A number of us are opposed to the removal of the Land Use Act from the Constitution. And even if we do it here in the Senate, it will be extremely difficult for most of the states in the northern part of the country to pass it. So there is no point embarking on a futile exercise when you know it is not going to succeed. So I am opposed to the removal of the Land Use Act, decree from the Constitution. Right now, my constituents are very happy with it. It should be retained in the Constitution. Secondly, Mr. President, I am in support of autonomy for the local government. And we debated extensively on this issue. And we agreed that local government councils
should be autonomous, should be financially autonomous. The allocation should come directly from federation account into their various accounts. This is the only way you can guarantee the democratic existence. Right now, they are financially regulated. They don't have money to carry out the functions that are enshrined in the 1998 Constitution. So I therefore support that they should be autonomous, and the allocation meant for the various local governments should go directly to them. But, Mr. President, there is one big issue, that is payment of salaries for primary school teachers. We have recommended that it should be on the first line charge from the allocation of the local government council. Before the money is given to the council, whatever is the salary of the various teachers in the various local government areas should be deducted and be handed over to the local government education authority that is charged with the responsibility of administration of primary schools education in various local government. I think if we do this, honestly speaking, Mr. President, it will satisfy the yearnings of several Nigerians. Mr. President, not only that, on the devolution of powers, my dear colleagues, on the devolution of powers, Mr. President, I'm opposed to the devolution of powers to the states, because if you devolve powers to the state without matching funds, how do they function? How do you expect them to perform on these powers you are giving them? You are giving them power without, the funds to perform. So we should not accept this, and it should be stepped down for reason that right now the revenue allocation formula has not been reviewed for the last 20 years, and it is supposed to be reviewed every 5 years. Unfortunately, the National Assembly is unable to force it on Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission to bring the revenue allocation formula so that we can pass it into law. Right now, the revenue allocation formula we are using is illegal because it has not been backed by the National Assembly. Mr. President, I support the idea of sovereign wealth funds because every country is saving for the rainy day. And right now, there is a litigation, states versus the federal government. States are opposed to the idea of sovereign wealth funds, where 1 billion naira was taken and kept in the sovereign wealth funds. And later on, governors of the 36 states of the Federation opposed this idea. Mr. President, every nation saves for the rainy day. And I therefore support this particular provision. It should be retained, and we should do whatever is humanly possible to ensure that the various state legislatures accept it and pass it into law.
Yes,
On?
Yes,
Mr. President, since my colleagues are saying that, yes, I agree, yes, sir.
Senator Sekibo.
Mr. President, I am Senator George Thompson Sekibo, CON, Rivers East. I want to again join my colleagues to appreciate the leadership of the Deputy Senate President and the way he has championed the cause for this and brought this beautiful report to us. But I have some few remarks to make. They are not negative remarks, observations. First, I want to read Bill number 3, number 5, and number 22. Number 3 introduce the national security and defense into the Constitution. Number 22 creates it. But in Bill number 5, where you have the distributable pool account, since we have accepted them as a security force I was thinking that they should be included after the word police, before the word the ministry. I don't know whether I'm making any sense. Just take note of it.
Number 5.
Yeah, I'm reading jointly. Number 3, number 5, and number 22. It's just the same thing. Number 22, number 3 included national security defense in the budget, in the Constitution. Then number 22 also properly established them. Now in number 5, where you have the distributor for 162.1, you will see that the Federation shall maintain a special account to be called the Federation account, into which shall be paid all revenues collected by the government of the Federation, except the proceeds from the personal income tax of the personnel of the armed forces of the Federation, the Nigerian police. I was thinking that the Nigerian Civil Defense Corps might come in here. That's the point of thought. Just look at it. They are just suggestions in case they work out. The next one is there are so many. Yeah. It's done. It's done. It's done. The next one is Bill 19. Bill 19. Bill 19. Bill 19. Where you talk about the independence of the Attorney General of the Federation without, like the Auditor General, giving him a frontline charge. Now, his independence will be encumbered. You will recall when we fought here to give INEC a frontline charge because it was not defined. Here, you are giving it the power that is independent to create an independence for the Attorney General of the Federation, and then we don't fund him directly. Whoever is the head of the government can always catch him to do what they want to do. So I think that we need to look at it properly, whether we also give him a direct line charge so that he will be at par with the Auditor General, who is also independent of the Federation. The next one is Bill number 10. Now, sir, if you look at the Constitution, Section 58(5), and then if you read it along with Section 58(6), the new inclusion, that's a contradiction. That's a problem. I'll read, sir. Sir, 58 is saying this. 58(5), where the president withholds his assent, and then the bill is again passed by each house by 2/3 majority, the bill shall become law, and the assent of the president shall not be required. And that is what this one is saying. Then you are adding additional clause 6. We say this one. Where the president either signifies that he assents or that he withholds assent, the bill shall, at the expiration of 30 days from the date of the receipt, become a law. The two are not saying the same thing, sir. Just note that one, sir. Then the next one is the creation of a State Judiciary Committee, because he gave to FCT, the State Judiciary Service Commission and Service Committee, while in the state, I think we didn't make that provision for them. So if you are paying the frontline to the state assemblies, it now goes to the various heads of the court. But at national level, it goes to National Judicial Council from all the readings. I don't know whether I'm making any sense. At the FCT, you have 3. The FCT Judicial Service Commission, the Judicial Service Committee is provided already. You already provided for it. But at the state, it is not provided. So when you, I didn't see it. Okay, sorry, accept that. So I hold on from here. Thank you very much.
Senator Idoko. TSP, shall you take note of these things and then you'll get a chance to comment later. Idoko.
Thank you, Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues. My name is Senator Atai Aidoko Ali. I represent Kogi East. Mr. President, I want to join early speakers in commending the committee for a very thorough and very good job. And Mr. President, I also commend the Senate under your able leadership for always scoring first. Mr. President, in my 14 years in the National Assembly, this is the first time that in mid-term we have been able to almost conclude work in the Senate on the amendment to the Constitution. Most times what happens is that when it's close to election and when it's almost quarter to at the last quarter, we begin to run and put ourselves under pressure, and when it goes to the state assemblies, we lose control of the situation. But this is the first time, Mr. President, that in mid-term, under your leadership, we have been able to get a very good job done on the amendment to the Constitution. So I want to say that I am very proud and I feel very privileged to be a member of this Senate. Though, digressing, majority of Nigerians are very proud of this Senate under your leadership. The few Nigerians that see this Senate in a negative light is because they felt that things have been done differently in this Senate. A lot of the things that have been done in this Senate have never been done before over the years. So I commend Mr. President for providing quality leadership to this Senate. My observation, Mr. President, is on item 6, amendment 6, where the explanation by the DSP to the effect that where local government elections are not conducted, allocations will be seized from going to the local governments concerned. I want us to go further because experience has shown, like in the case of Lagos State, that even when allocations were stopped to the created local government then by Lagos State, they continue to function because Lagos State had money, they had the resources to sustain this illegality. They had the resources to continue to sustain this local government. So I would suggest that we go further here to say that any state that violates this, the allocation to the state itself should be stopped. Not only the local government, even the allocation to the state should be withdrawn, withheld until the state conducts the complies with the local government election. I want this.
Sorry, come again.
The consequence of a state not conducting local government election by this is that allocations should be withdrawn from such local government. I said that experience of Lagos have shown that some states can survive even if those allocations are withdrawn, like in the case of Lagos, for about 12 months. They survived without allocation to states then during Obasanjo. And if a state can survive, he might not really bother about withdrawing allocations. In any case, that will be saving for them for the future. I am recommending that we go further to say that such states also, the allocation to the states should also be withheld in line, in addition to the local government allocations being withdrawn, until the state comply with the provisions to conduct the local government election. That is my amendment to that clause 6, Mr. President, and I believe that this will be... Sorry? They will pass it. So, Mr. President, this is my amendment to this, and I also would say, Mr. President, again, that I'm proud to be part of this Senate that is a Senate of reform. This Senate is making things that have not been done before. Thank you, sir.
Senator Dino Milai.
Mr. President, my very respected colleagues, Dino Milai, Kogi West. I want to join my voice to those who have appreciated the ever-dynamic chairman of the Constitutional Committee, Amendment Committee, Iko Aibo. This is a very wonderful service to Nigeria. We appreciate you, and you have done a fantastic job under the leadership of the irremovable President of the Nigerian Senate. Mr. President, my dear colleagues, I will join those who have appreciated the reduction in the ages of those eligible to contest elections across the strata. Because as an advocate of generational change, I join those who say not too young to run. I also will hope that there will be amendment for too old to run, so that people like Adeyeye can allow his children to also have opportunity of coming to the Senate. Mr. President, I want to move a motion that we, in the consideration of these amendments, have additional clause and bill to amend the relevant section of the Constitution whereby INEC will conduct local government elections. Mr. President, we cannot be talking of local government autonomy. We cannot be talking of the independence of local government when the foundation for election process into chairmanship position itself is faulty. Today, you will believe with me that SIEC, State Independent Electoral Commissions, they are jokes. Governors sit in the comfort of their offices and appoint chairmen. No election in any real sense is taking place. Mr. President, I am happy that former governors in this chamber today are supporting autonomy for the local government. We cannot be talking of autonomy when the foundation for election itself is faulty. We should take local government elections to INEC so that there will be confidence building in the process of even electing chairmen. So I so move that we have additional clause and bill that will amend the relevant section of the Constitution where elections will be taken, local government elections will be taken to INEC. Then we will have confidence that democracy is truly government of the people, by the people, and for the people. I so move.
Senator Sonny Obuji.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Sonny Obuji. I rise to second the motion ably moved by Senator Dino Melaye. In seconding that we should have additional clauses to this amendment, I want to also add that if we must really have a third tier of government, then we cannot leave it in the hands of just few people to decide who becomes what. Some of us became local government chairmen during the military because there was a national electoral body that conducted that election. There was confidence that those who will be selected or who will run that election to win, that it was going to be the people that would do it, and not the governors that were also elected at that particular point in time. And so autonomy worked then, and that's why today, even those who have been chairmen, who have been governors of states and are now in National Assembly, have accepted that there is need for autonomy in the local governments. Having reason to support that motion, I also will take the opportunity, Mr. Chairman, to...
Let's rule on this. You are supporting. You are taking on the motion.
So I hereby second the motion. But
go ahead. I'm not just receiving it. Yes. Put to question.
Distinguished colleagues, this motion, or as you put it, has not gone through the proper process. The distinguished colleagues, as you know, that this report distinguished, as I was saying, as you all know, that we went through a process, both at the point where this came in as motion, came in as a bill, then went to public hearing, and this document that we're debating is a product of the two houses. And as such, I truly support the motion, and I'm sure we all do, but it has to go into the process. We can take note of it when I put the question, but it will not, unfortunately, be able to meet this particular process. But the review of a constitution is not a one-off item issue. I'm sure there are other things that will be raised today that are very valid points that definitely would go into it. But this document is just to guide us as we go. But I'll still put the question that we can note the position of the Senate and we can move. So those in favor of the motion moved by Senator Dinra and seconded by Senator Sonny Uwuji, directing that INEC should conduct local government elections, say aye. Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. Senator Danjuma Goje.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Mohammed Danjuma Goje, representing Gombe State. The motion just passed. The motion just passed is a popular motion. As a former governor, I fully support this motion because if you want independence of the local government, you must have an independent election. And the fear we had that this may not sail through at the states. If you think it will not sail through at the states, then there is no need to recommend the abolition of the joint accounts, because the government will be more interested in joint accounts than even the State Electoral Commission. So the two should either stay together or they get removed together. That's my view. Mr. President, I want to join others in commending the leadership of this Senate and the National Assembly for fast-tracking the process of amending this Constitution. But I'm very much worried because some of the issues that are going to be affected by this recommendation are very fundamental. They are very fundamental. Some of them are really controversial to the extent that some of us may vote against the interest of our constituents. So we must be careful in taking decisions on some of these issues. For me, I am one of those who would like to have more time to consult with my constituents so that at the end of the day, I will not be accused of voting against the interests of my constituents. I'll give you an example. You want to make adjustment on the measure of creation of states, and you say you are removing ambiguities. What are those ambiguities? Are you trying to simplify the creation of states so that we end up with 100 states in Nigeria or 200 states? Or what are you trying to do? So I need to consult with my people to know what they think in order to vote according to their wishes. So for me, it will be not right. It will not be right for tomorrow for us to vote on this kind of issue. There are other issues. If you take the Land Use Act is a very, very controversial issue. I am totally opposed to anything that will remove it from the Constitution or to take it to concurrent list. I want it to remain where it is in the Constitution. And this is the view of many, many other people. So if you force me to vote tomorrow without getting maybe renewed mandate from them, you are really not being fair to me, Mr. President. There are other issues. If you take the issue of affirmative, affirmative action, fine. In some states, you can get very many women professors, women PhDs, women technocrats. But in some states, you may not be able to get those fully qualified women up to 35%. So for me, I'm not saying yes or no. This is a very, very important issue that I also need to consult properly before I vote. And if I can go on and on, if you take the issue of devolution of powers to the states, I want to concur with Senator Alero, who said you want to give more responsibility to the states without giving them additional revenue. Any move to devolve more powers to the states must be accompanied by the review of the revenue allocation formula. Otherwise, it will not make more sense. So for me, if we are going to vote tomorrow, I agree. We can vote, but we should not vote on all issues. Some of these issues are too controversial that they cannot be decided tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Distinguished colleagues, I think one of the points where we must commend the Deputy Senate President and the committee is that they've taken a path that has allowed us to be able to look at all the different issues independently. In the past, one item will bring out the whole process. So I think the concerns and reservations of some of our colleagues on issues that are dear to them does not in any way affect those that we all have a common position on. So, and I think we should respect people's concern. I would advocate that if there are particular bills that people have concerns on, there's no point us even rushing to put to vote. We can take note of their interests and their concern and step down. And areas where we have common positions, go ahead and vote on. And I think that would be. Thank you very much, Senator Shehu Sani. Distinguished colleagues, what I have said does not say you will not vote. When we get to the bill one by one, we will express and look at the issues and take a decision. This Senate has always been able to put Nigeria and the interest first and resolve on all issues, and we do it again. So let's move on as the way we used to. I would take everybody's contribution. So let me concentrate. Shehu Sani.
Mr. President, I thank you for giving me this opportunity to add my voice to this document. Mr. President, I thank you very much for this opportunity. The Constitution of a nation is the political, social, and economic architecture of that country. It is also its compass and its rules. If we are able to really provide a truly people-oriented constitution for our people, we will not only be writing ourselves in gold, but we'll be writing ourselves in marble and in diamond. Mr. President, I will say this. The issues that I clearly addressed in this amendment are germane to the survival of our country. Some of the problems and challenges we face as a country today is directly rooted to our inability to address our constitutional challenges. And these issues are very clear. I will first of all align myself with the very fact that for us to truly have a credible and transparent local government election, certainly INEC must be given that responsibility. And the recommendation being given in this proposal of a new financial source and funding for state assemblies will go a long way in giving them that independence, that mandate, and that strength to be able to conduct their affairs as an independent arm of government. And I will say this, the inclusion of former Senate presidents and speakers
to the Council of State will give that council the necessary legislative input and experience to be able to achieve results for whatever reason they assemble themselves. And I will say this also, that there's a need to change that nomenclature from Nigerian police force to Nigerian police. We need a police that will conduct affairs without necessarily the level of a force. One that will combat crimes, provide services, address some of the basics and challenges of our security in our country. And I will say this on this, the time frame being given for the president to submit the list of his ministers is very important. As we have seen in the last time, we consumed over 6 months before we have a list. And one problem with that is that we have a list of people being sent to the National Assembly, Senate in particular, without their portfolio attached to it. A ministerial nominee is brought in here. You don't know whether he's going to be in Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Internal Affairs, and you don't clearly get the kind of questions you will ask him. That is also very important. And I will say this, separating the office of the Attorney General of the Federation and the Minister of Justice address the problem of political interference in judicial matters. We need to do that. And I hope my colleagues will support this. And on the issue of assent to bills, that is very important. And when there is a specific time frame for the presidency, for the president to submit the list, submit before us the budget, and also there is a time frame for us to sign, to work on it, I think that will go a long way in addressing the problems we faced in the past. As for the independent candidature, it's very important. In as much as some people are in no support of it, but at least we will be able to address the problem of tyranny of political parties. Individuals should be given the opportunity to contest election without aligning themselves to any cult kind of relationship. And I will say this on the last note. If we are able to achieve the very fact that in every possible way and if we are able to give INEC a time frame for registration of political parties and also addressing the problems that all has to do with elections, I think that will go a long way. So I think this is a strong message to this country that until and unless you have a constitution that is truly yours, but I will still advise very well that we must consult.
Senator Dino Milaya and those at the back, can you keep quiet, please? Yeah, go ahead.
Fairly and squarely consult our constituency to be able to vote clearly so that we are here representing people. And I believe that each and every one of us will make the necessary consultation before he takes any decision. Because the decision that we are going to take here is not a standing order of the National Assembly. It is a standing order for the whole country. And I will strongly give that advice. Thank you very much.
Senator Binta.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Binta Masi Garba, Adama North Senatorial Zone. First, I want to differ from what His Excellency, the former governor of Gombe, made mention. And he's on record that when he was the governor, his nominee from his state as a minister was a woman. And presently, she is a member representing Duku Federal Constituency, Dukunafada Federal Constituency, presently now in the 8th Assembly. Secondly, again, in this dispensation, a nominee who is now the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations was from Gombe State. And again, in the 6 nominees of the women ministerial nominees which we passed here, 4 are from northern Nigeria. So when we talk about affirmative action of 35%, each state in Nigeria should have women that are competent, able to present them in governance.
Correct.
So, sir, I stand to say that when we talked about affirmative...
Go on.
When we talk...
Address the chair.
When we talk about the affirmative action, is that Nigerian has been or was a signatory to the 35% affirmative action, and I want to thank most sincerely the chairman of this committee who deemed it fit to see that these women or women of Nigeria should be given the slot of 35% affirmative action on political appointee level. Sir, we've talked about age limit, but again, maybe the chairman has to look at the age limit again. There was no age limit assigned to councillors, those running for councillors in Nigeria. If there are youths that are calling for their involvement in contesting election, too young to contest election, so we should now see the age limit that will be given to councillors in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Senator Peter Wabush.
Thank you, Mr. President, for recognizing me. Senator Peter Wabush, representing Delta North. Mr. President, I rise to commend the committee for a job well done. We would not have gotten a better report. Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, this is a Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And when a senators make comments, it is very important that we speak as statesmen. Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, why am I saying so? If a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria signs a document, he should be able to defend that document and speak in defense of that document. Mr. President, if you look at the signature page attached to this document, number 14 and number 30 are members of the Senate, and they have spoken against the document they signed for. That is unacceptable. If you want to withdraw your signature from a document you have endorsed, if you want to withdraw your signature from a document you have endorsed, you better do that. But to come up to speak on a document you have signed, and which is now before the Senate, which has now become a public document, it's very unfair. I have taken note, I've taken pains to go through the signatures because distinguished senators participated in this meeting. I'm not a member of the committee, but I went through the document and I was listening to people talking. After their signature, please, sir, I'm talking, sir. After their, please let me finish. After we have endorsed this document, the document that is before us. So, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, I want to just make this simple observation because tomorrow anybody can be here. If you want us to consult and you feel that this document needs consultation, there was no need to endorse this document because this is a report from a committee in which we participated. Mr. Chairman, having said that, I want to commend this particular report, but the only area I want to speak on is on the issue of Attorney General. This is what is acceptable and what is done in almost all civilized nations. The Attorney General must be separated from the Minister of Justice. But, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, you cannot separate it effectively without giving them money to perform. If you really want an Attorney General to be independent, and you believe that that office must be independent,
you must give them first-line charge or make provisions for the funding of that particular office. And that is what I sincerely recommend. That is the problem we have been having in this country, where the office of Minister of Justice and Attorney General, they are mixed together, and then they have some political influences in deciding their functions. But if we want to create a very good judicial system, that particular office must be separated into two, and the funding of that office then the funding of that office must be provided for. That is. Then secondly, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, it will be unfair for us to say that women should not be given 35%. I support that. There is no section of this country where we cannot have women that are qualified to hold political offices. In every state of this country, in this part of this nation. So the 35%, I support it very well, and I think there will be no need to comment on that. Those are my two observations.
Point of order, Senator Goju.
Order 15.
Go ahead. Your privilege is here.
Do I read? Any senator may rise at any time to speak upon a matter of privilege suddenly arising, and he shall be prepared to move without notice. So, I want to say, as a member of the Constitution Review Committee, if we do anything, I can sign. But it doesn't mean that when it comes to the floor, I cannot vote. Unless I've been disqualified to vote tomorrow. They let me know. Because signing is different from voting. And I have the right to express my opinion at any point in time. So the last speaker was trying to confuse the issues. Unless they are saying that all of us 51, including the chairman, should not vote tomorrow, fine. They will not vote. We will allow you who are not members of the committee to vote. Otherwise, I reserve the right to express my opinion on this floor, on any issues, until voting comes, at any time, until we come to voting. Unless this Senate is disqualifying 51 of us, including the Deputy Senate President, from voting tomorrow, fine.
Distinguished colleagues, let me rule on this, Senator Alero. I don't think we should flog this issue. Even if you vote today, you might have the right to change your opinion, even if you vote. So, but the point, I know the point that is being stated, but again, my advice, we're leaving the substance for the periphery issues. Let us stay with the substance, and the substance is the content of the report, a report that has been well presented, that has a lot of interest for the country. I think let us stay. Noted. Senator Lidani.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Joshua Lidani. I represent from the South. While associating myself proudly too with the work done by this committee, having participated very actively. But I recall that in the course of debate during the committee proceedings, I did raise an issue which has to do with item 22. Item 22, which was proposed by the committee. I did express my reservations as to what is the rationale behind the inclusion of the civil defense as one of the bodies that is sought to be included. Mr. President, the amendment sought is concerning the section 153, which is listing the civil defense as one of the federal executive bodies in the Constitution. Section 153 lists those bodies as follows, if I may read with your permission, Mr. President. There shall be established for the Federation the following bodies, namely, Code of Conduct, Council of State, Federal Character Commission, Federal Judicial Service Commission, Federal Civil Service Commission, INEC, National Defense Council, National Economic Council, National Judicial Council, National Population Commission, National Security Council, Nigerian Police Council, Police Service Commission, and Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission. Now, for us now to include civil defense, whereas there are similar bodies like the civil defense that are not included in the Constitution, I think it's totally unnecessary.
We have bodies like the Nigerian Customs, we have Nigerian Immigration, we have Federal Road Safety Commission. They are not part of the Constitution. They are not a prisons service. They are legal bodies established by Act of Parliament, but they are not listed in the Constitution. And in fact, there is a body that is coordinating the appointment, discipline, and promotion of the staff of these bodies. Is not included in the Constitution. So why are we congesting the provisions of the Constitution by including a body like a civil defense? Because if we open the gate for civil defense to go in, tomorrow immigration will request any other body that we establish, we request to be included in the provision. Whereas we are making even efforts to remove some of the bodies from the Constitution so that we can be able to amend the provisions of those bodies easily. But here we are trying to include a body in the federal, in the Constitution. To me, sir, it's totally unnecessary. It's going to open floodgate, and there is no special reason why we should include it. The reason given by the committee is that because the civil defense is listed as exclusive legislative list. If you look at the exclusive legislative list, second schedule, part 1, you have customs as item 16 on the exclusive legislative list. You also have immigration as item 30 on the exclusive legislative list. It's not for that, because they are in the exclusive legislative list doesn't mean we have to include them as one of the federal executive bodies to be included in the Constitution. So that is no reason for why we should include the Nigerian Civil Defense as an item in the Constitution. So I suggest, sir, that we should vote out this proposal. Secondly, sir, the issue of INEC, of independent candidature. We have to look very closely at the issue of independent candidature. It's a novel idea. It's not something we have tried before. So to me, we have to be very careful, because we might be creating a logistics nightmare for INEC. Because there is no number of candidates that you can have as an independent candidate. So if you have 100 or 200 people, how do you take care of the logistic arrangement for voting for this kind of people in an election? So I think we have to look at a very closer look at the item on independent candidature. Political parties are platforms that are created to enable candidates actualize their ambition. For us now to jettison that and allow for independent candidature, I think is totally misplaced. I will strongly submit that we should also vote out the provision for independent candidature, because it is going to create a logistics nightmare for INEC and for peaceful conduct of election. Thank you.
Yes, and just on the last point you made, I think the committee is only saying that the issue should now be left by Act of National Assembly. So the Electoral Act can address your concerns on the logistic and criteria by which you can be defined as an independent INEC candidate, if you understand what I mean. Anyway, we'll continue to do. Senator James Manja.
Thank you, Mr. President, my respected colleagues. James Manager, Delta South. Mr. President, I am a member of this committee, and I participated in almost all the deliberations, and therefore I have very little to say, because whatever that is here is a product of the series of meetings that we had here in Abuja and in Lagos and some other places. And I want to join other colleagues in thanking the best chairman in the chambers, Senator Ikeremontu, the Deputy Senate President. There is no doubt about the fact that he is the best committee chairman. Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, my respected colleagues, just very few areas, like I said,
proposed amendment number 1, it is very important, and I'm sure that must be very popular with all of us, including the state houses of assembly. Because if you have National Council of States and you have former presidents from the executive arm, you have former chief justices from the judiciary, and you do not have the Senate President, former Senate President, and former speakers from parliaments, then that means it's a disservice to that arm of government. And therefore, that is one amendment that is very germane and indeed very popular everywhere in this country. Mr. President, my respected colleagues, the amendment as to when budget draft must be submitted to the National Assembly, I sincerely believe that it is better for us to be very specific instead of saying 90 days to the end of the year. It's better for us to have a date. Like I've always said, in this country, keeping and observing the laws is a big problem. Executing the laws is a very big problem. We have so many laws everywhere, but we don't have respect for the laws that we have in this country. So, to make it 90 days to the end of the year, in my humble view, it's not too specific. It's not specific enough. Instead, it's better for us to say on September, latest by September the 3rd or 4th, the 1st, the draft budget must be presented to the National Assembly. And I agree, Mr. President, my respected colleagues, with the senior leader when he said, if we are making laws for the executive arm of government to present the budget by latest by the 1st of September or 90 days to the end of the year, we must also be bold enough to make a law for ourselves that latest by the 31st of December, or not before the 31st of December, we must also compulsorily pass the budget. I think that is going to be very popular with everybody. Then, Mr. President, my respected colleagues, as to the age limit, I think not just Nigeria, but the whole world, we have been very selfish. You prescribe age for people to vote for you, and then you say you cannot vote for, the people cannot be voted for unless they get to a particular age. I think it is a very selfish idea. If you are saying that somebody at 18 is qualified enough, matured enough to vote for you, and you are saying that no, for you to be voted for, you have to wait until it gets to a particular age before you can be voted for. And therefore, I support the position taken by the Chief Whip that we need to bring it down to a level where people can compete with all of us. Those who are 70, 80 years, allow your children to also grow. If you have quality children at home, you will never be against this proposition. If you are, and I'm going to believe that all of us, we have children at home that are of great quality, who can even rise to become president of this country. So, as far as I'm concerned, this is a very popular amendment that has been proposed. Mr. President, my respected colleagues, having said all that, that of the women, yes, because just like we have been unfair to the younger ones, we have been so unfair to the women folk. I think it's important for us to protect them, unless you do not have a wife or you do not have a daughter at home, before you be against this particular proposal. As far as I'm concerned, it is important for us to vote for the women so that the women can also be, of course, in every society, women are better managers. Women are better managers of so many things. Believe you me, and I'm sure what I'm saying is very popular. So having said that, Mr. President, my respected colleagues, for obvious reasons,
there are amendments that will definitely need some consultations. No doubt about that. And if some members are saying that we need to consult with our constituents, just like we did in the last time, I think there's nothing wrong for this consultation to be made. But as you said, there are certain amendments that are very clear and very ambiguous and very non-controversial. Those ones, we can separate those ones. And more so, by the grace of God, under the able leadership of Senator Ekelemandu, the issues are separated. They are not joined together. Since the issues are separated, we can separate them and vote on those ones that are non-controversial tomorrow. Because as far as I'm concerned, the non-controversial ones are not controversial with our people. And those ones that are a little bit contentious, consultation is important, because you stand to speak here not on behalf of yourself, but on behalf of your people. And if your people, you need to consult with them, you need to properly consult with them, so that whatever you are doing here, you are doing that properly on behalf of them. Mr. President, my respected colleagues, this is a very nice document. It's a document that will stand the test of time.
Senator Ali Sabi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I'm Ali Sabi Abdullahi, Niger North. Permit me, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, to join other speakers in commending our erudite chairman for a very good job. No doubt, this effort will go down in the history of the National Assembly as one that is unique. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my comment will be on 1, 2, or 3 areas, but particularly the issue of the local government. And we have said it very clearly. You can see that a consensus is being built with the very deep experience of the former governors. The issue of local government autonomy is becoming a very possible development. Now, my point here is, I knew in talking about this autonomy, we made a lot of changes or proposals. But I think the last one where we talk about this distributable pool account, the concern raised by the teachers to the effect that they will want their salaries guaranteed. A provision has been made, but I'm afraid I'm not too comfortable with that provision, in the sense that it says the amount to be put into the salaries of primary school teachers will be given to a body as may be prescribed by the House of Assembly of each state. Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, my worry here is that if this is left this way, then we have not really done anything. Because at the end of the day, different states may decide to prescribe different areas where their salaries will go. And that fear is not being contained. So I think I would like to urge my colleagues to look at this clause again, because I think the NUT is saying, if we look at the standard provisions in all states, they have the Universal Primary Education Board, and I think if we have to prescribe, it would be better we are clear and we have prescribed a body. And I think the payment of this amount from the Federation Account Allocation Committee should be to a dedicated teacher salary account. And this should be stated. If we make some of these changes, I think the fears at that level can be taken care of. But otherwise, if we leave it the way it is, different states, houses of assembly may describe or may decide to give different areas where these salaries will go. Now, the other aspect is, yes, the issue of independent candidates is a very popular one. We have all agreed on it, and we have said the conditions for independent candidature should be left out of
the Constitution. But I want to suggest, rather than leave it as a guidelines by INEC, I think it should come into the Electoral Act, which is a body that can, which is a law, and so it is, something we can deal with. Now, the concern here is, if the conditions as I saw it before now is anything to go by, then the logistical issue being talked about at INEC level definitely will be a problem. And my take is, the essence of independent candidature is to bring in somebody who truly is very popular and is electable, but has been shut out of the various political party arrangements. So I think the condition should be very, very, clear, and it shouldn't be that easy, because if you make it that easy, at the end of the day, almost everybody will just wake up and try to be an independent candidate simply for the fun of it. And then the entire essence of independent candidature will just be messed up. I think we have a duty to make sure that we leave the criteria under the Electoral Act, which can be reviewed from time to time. The other aspect is with respect to state independent electoral committees. I want to lend my voice here. Truly, if we want the local government level to be good, then we must ensure that that provision that says democratically elected government at the local government level is guaranteed by the Constitution. The only way you can guarantee it is when the electoral process is something that is credible, is something that everybody can subscribe and believe in. And I think the idea of SIEC has been tested, and honestly it has outlived its usefulness. It is time for us to remember those days in the 70s, I think in the Third Republic, actually, or is it the Second Republic? I think the local government elections were conducted by the federal electoral body. Now, the last one is the not too young to run. This is a very good one. It's very important that the young ones are given the chance to participate in governance. And today, if you look at the age, 65% of Nigerians are categorized as people below the age of 35. And so they constitute the large pool of electorates. And I think it is only fair that we give them that opportunity to be voted for. The last point I want to make, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, is that we must make every effort to support local government administration. And I think the various provisions being made in the various bills here, we must take a look at it critically and ensure that at the end of the day, the right thing is done. I know it is very clear that whatever we do here, the state houses of assembly have a role to play. And it is important Nigerians march down to the state houses of assembly to make sure that they also do the needful, so that at the end, we can tackle good governance at that level. The issue of unemployment can be taken care of tremendously at the level of local government. And another important point is, in most instances, we are asking for foreign direct investment. We are asking for investment within the state or within the country. And all of these investment, if it is companies, if it is, what do they call it, maybe agriculture, will be taking place at the level of the local government. So if local governance is bad, then you are telling your investors that you cannot guarantee what is going to happen to them at that level. And I think it is important we ensure that good governance will actually promote solid foreign direct investment, which in most instances will be depending on the local areas to operate. I think with these few comments, I want to support most of these bills. And of course, I also believe that if by tomorrow we look at the contentious issues, it is good we are allowed to go back to our constituents and ask for their opinions so that we can be voting based on their opinions. Thank you.
Senator Manafa.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, Senator Kabiru Garba Marafa
CON representing the people of Zamfara Central. Mr. President, I align myself with the earlier speakers to congratulate our DSP, the chairman of this committee, and members of the committee on the review of the Constitution for the painstaking job they have considered, they have produced. Mr. President, I want to ride on your wide counsel that some contentious issues be left out and we be allowed to consult with our constituents. I divided this submission into two or into three. Those that are clear issues can be passed without any hindrance or debate. There are those for which I think some amendments needs to be done, or we need to look at them a little closely. And there are those that outrightly we need the mandate of our constituents to be able to pass them. Mr. President, I will start with item number 3. Item number 3 seeks to alter the second schedule, part 1 and 2, and to move some certain items to the current legislative list. Mr. President, this is one item that I will need to consult with my people, to be able to take a decision that my people would be part and parcel of. Item number 5 refers to the joint local government accounts. Mr. President, here I want to align myself entirely with the submission made by my younger brother, Senator Dino Melai, that the first thing we are supposed to consider is sanitizing local government elections before we talk of joint local government elections. Anything done in the local government, if the elections that will produce the chief executives and legislature of the local government is not guaranteed, whatever you do at the top will amount to nothing. Therefore, my candid submission on this, Mr. President, is we look at local government, we look at how we can bring local government election to the national level where elections can be done creditably and people can participate without fear or favor. Until that is done, I don't think anything done at the local government level will make much difference. Mr. President, item 27, the not too young to govern, I am not only supporting this aspect of the Constitution amendment, but I'm proposing that the entire need for age be taken out of the Constitution. And my reasons are simple. The provisions as they are now, where we peg age limit for people to contest, is against the spirit and letter of the same Constitution. Section 42 of the Constitution prohibits discrimination of any kind. And by saying that somebody cannot contest an election until he reaches age of so-so and so-so, I think that aspect is discriminatory. And we can do without it. I think everybody is being taken care by the Constitution. The electorates are being guaranteed because they are the ones that will vote. So even if you are 18 years and you come out to contest, if the people doesn't like you, they reject you at the polls, and it ends there. I think that will eliminate all these tensions around where people would say there are, some are already agitating that an age limit be put at the top, where my senior brother, the likes of Professor Adeye, will be pushed out. I don't think that is a healthy development, because that in itself too is discriminatory. So we need to do away with the whole aspect of age. People, if you can vote, you can be voted for. Let the people decide what they want. Where the people want a professor a day, they bring a professor a day. And those that would want an 18-year-old, well, I think I'm in the middle, so I still have some 4 years to fire on. So this is my candid submission on that we do away with the entire section because it is against section 42. Mr. President, item number 11, also, much as the committee has done a very good job, I think the issue of portfolio, I don't think it is quite necessary, because unless if we are going to specify that the president or the governor must maintain such portfolios, I think it is an exercise in futility, because the same president or governor can bring somebody as Minister of Finance today, and after swearing him in tomorrow, next week he says he changes his portfolio and there is nothing anybody can do. So I think that is an exercise in futility. We don't need to even waste our time putting this thing in our constitution. On the issue of 35% affirmative action, Mr. President, I support women and I support everything women they do. But I'm afraid bringing this into the constitution would also disenfranchise some other people. It is in the same light that I argued on item 27, where people have the right to vote and be voted for. In the same thing now, if you say 35% must be women, Mr. President, as I'm talking to you today, statistics are showing that women outnumbered men as we are talking today. A day will come, it is just a question of if and not when women will take over in almost all stratas of everything. Then what are we going to do that day, when that day comes? Mr. President, therefore, I have seen women in Nigeria that rose to the pinnacle of their career on merit. We have seen a lot of them. Lately, Justice Alomo Maria Mukhtar rose to the top of the judiciary in Nigeria by merit, not because she's a woman, but because she is a woman of substance that she deliver. Our own Olujimi here that is here is not here because she is Olujimi. She is here because her people want her to be here. Mr. President, I think the whole of this section is not quite necessary. As we are today, women are very well represented, and they should allow Senator Marafa can appoint 90 women out of 100, and another one will appoint 30, but if we say 35, unless if we are going to put a proviso that they cannot exceed that 35, and I don't think they will take that. So this section, to me, and in the interest of women of Nigeria, should be taken out. The issue of putting a limit does not arise. If they take it gently, time will come where they will take the center stage. Item 15, Mr. President, the issue of Nigerian police force, I think this is just overplugging an issue. Whether anybody like it or not, police is a force, because there is no security arm in Nigeria that is half the Nigerian police force. They carry gun, they are everything. What we need for the police force is to help them carry out their constitutional mandate. Today we are suffering from all sorts of vices all over the place. We need to support the police, not talking of changing from Nigerian police force. To me, this is egocentric, and it doesn't hold any water. Whether anybody like it or not, police is a force, and they are a force. Even water, when you collect water in a dam, you know, water becomes a force that can demolish everything. So whether anybody like it or not, police is a force, and they are Nigerian police force, and I don't see anything wrong with that. We need to give them teeth to bite, you know, and give them the necessary support they want. Mr. President, item number 23, that is of citizenship and indigenship. Mr. President, with due respect, again, to women here, I want to consult with my people. I want my people to take this decision. Yes, we are senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and we are supposed to look at Nigeria, but I am a senator representing the Afara Central. I don't want a situation whereby my constituents or my people will be pitched against the wives of elites. A situation where you say a woman can take either indigenship by birth or by marriage. I don't want to take that decision alone. I want to consult with my people. I want them to agree that it is their decision that whether to take this indigenship or by marriage or by birth. Because the issue is, while I have seen in my state the requisite accommodation of other ethnic groups, I don't see commensurate reciprocity from other states. In my state today, I have Yorubas or Igbos as commissioners or SAs and everything. I don't see that kind of reciprocity in other states. So also, in this matter, I want my people to understand the import of this decision, so that if they say I vote yes for them. If they say they want a no, I give them a no. Mr. President, item 24, that is on the time after which, if the executive doesn't assent to a bill, it becomes a law automatically. I want to humbly suggest that we increase. I totally support it because it will strengthen this democracy. But I plead that I propose that this be extended from 30 days to 60 days to give the executive proper time for them to hang themselves, so to say. Because if they don't do it, everybody knows that it is their fault that they didn't do it, and now it becomes a law. Mr. President, with these few remarks, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity and to congratulate this other body. And I want my colleagues to look at my suggestions and reflect on them. I so submit, Mr. President.
Senator Porker. Please, distinguished colleagues, at this point, if you can please be considerate and try and make the remarks as brief, so we're not just repeating ourselves. Senator Porker.
Mr. President, dear colleagues, I rise to give thanks to this committee for a very good work, very meticulous work being carried out by this committee. Mr. President, dear colleague, I haven't said that. I just want to make some few comments regarding section 11, just like my colleague just mentioned, where we are amending that the president or the governor should submit nominees within 30 days of being sworn in. Agree in toto without submission, and it will ginger the executive to be up and doing right from the point they are campaigning till that point they are being sworn in as either president or the governor of his state. A situation where a cabinet is not formed for over months or years does not augur well for any system. Mr. President, I haven't said that. Let me just make a comment about that controversial issue on Section 32 that deals with the Land Use Act. Mr. President, dear colleagues, if you look at that section, it is lifted verbatim from a decree of 1978. And I see no reason why we should stay away, why we should fear in subjecting this decree provision into consideration, into scrutiny. The amendment does not mean that we are throwing off this provision. But my colleagues should note that this is a decree that was enacted by the military. And why is it fear for us to subject this in line with democratic tenets? So, Mr. President, dear colleague, I see nothing bad in removing that one. After all, we are talking about devolution of powers. Well, we are afraid in scrutinizing that element of the Constitution. Mr. President, dear colleague, I join my
colleagues too in expressing their concerns about the local government structure. A lot have been said regarding the local government. The fears expressed as to whether we'll attain that autonomy which we are driving at. Yes, suggestions have been made in respect to the electoral processes, that is, asking INEC to take over the state electoral process. Mr. President, it is true, even in Lagos, there are a lot of issues that surround the local government structure. Mr. President, I make bold to say that there is a fundamental issue which we have failed to address. And that, to my mind, is subjecting the local government system to the states. And allowing the state to create, whether you want to create 100, 1,000 local government. But that is a topic we did not debate. Until we take that bold step of allowing the state and making our federation run a two-tier system, then the state can go ahead. Because these palliative measures which we address, we talk about teacher salary, I raise the issue of even the health workers. We are talking about the joint local government accounts. Governors are diverting money. If the local government are created based on developmental centers, the governors will not divert money to anywhere because it is their own creation. So I see these measures as palliative until we take that bold step of allowing this system, the federation, to run on a two-tier system and allow the states to create their development centers, which they call local government. I'm not saying that the local government structure should collapse. No, far from it. They should be in existence, but it should be under the states. So that whatever money that goes to them, if a state governor decides to create, let him create. So, Mr. President, I think, in line with the concerns expressed by a lot of my colleagues concerning the real autonomy of this local system, administration, we need to do more. With these few remarks, Mr. President, I once more thank the committee for doing a very nice work for this Senate. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, distinguished colleagues. Distinguished colleagues, it is the mood that we close the debate at this point, unless anybody has very strong there. Yes. Let me thank the... Okay, so we allow you to...
Thank you.
If I feel that you are going off, I'll bring you back.
Opinion, Mr. President, very quickly, two very major areas that has not been touched at all by anyone on comments made so far, and that is on Bill number 20, that is submissions from the judiciary. On the issue of the new composition of the Court of Appeal, or Federal Court of Appeal, a number from 49, which was hitherto the provision under the existing relevant section of the Constitution, a number of 100, Mr. President, has been here recommended under the new amendment before us. I'm not commenting because of the hike in the number, but I'm commenting because the number 49 was sort of subdivided into 3 areas. And that is what has been provided here, that is 3 members who were then said to be proposed to be learned in Sharia law, and then another 3 said to be learned in customary law, and then the balance from that 49 was left to cater for others. In this new provision, 100 was given. I would have thought there would have been a proportional representation of those 3 sections in recommending how those 100 number of judges will go in exclusive boundaries of division of those 3 areas that were given. But unfortunately, from what is here, the same 3 number was maintained under that 100 number of judges provided for customary judges, and then 3 number for those learned in Sharia law, leaving the rest for the 3rd group. In my own opinion, and it has been given somewhere within the provisions, that a minimum of 3 number of judges shall sit. It does not give enough number for those 1st and 2nd category to now be able to sit in the absence of 1 out of that 3. So in my own opinion, since the number has been recommended to be jacked up to 100, there is no reason why we should not look at commensurately taking the numbers up to cater for those 3 areas, Mr. President. That is one of my recommendations. Number 2, Mr. President, for purpose of clarity, in my own opinion, a lot of people have already spoken on the autonomy of the local government. It's just for purpose of emphasis and drawing our attention that the same section 7 people are referring to, and with permission, if we read it, they said, and it is clearly indicated that, may I read, Mr. President?
Go ahead.
It says, the system of local government by democratically elected local government councils under the Constitution is hereby guaranteed. In my own opinion, Mr. President, like I said, the words were chosen, and this is the provision of our Constitution. In my own opinion, making amendments to make the local government autonomous is good. There is no doubt about it. But it is not as important as the provision that has already been embedded under Section 7 of the Constitution, guaranteeing that it has to be democratically elected. Democracy and elections have their own definitions, Mr. President, and in my own opinion, a lot of people have spoken, and even if they didn't, the fact of the matter, this is the last bus stop as far as that issue is concerned. If we are talking of guaranteeing democratically elected local governments, what we have seen in the last 18 years, Mr. President, does not guarantee putting into offices democratically elected councils. So in my own opinion, the chamber should stand on one ground, either to guarantee through other extra provisions of the Constitution, or there is no need to go into it, because no matter what happens, the next section, Section 8, refers and gives power to the state assemblies to do as they can on the issues pertaining to funding and spendings of such local governments as the case may be. Lastly, Mr. President, the issue of affirmative action. Section 42, with your permission again, if you agree, I may read. Unless we are amending Section 42A and B, unless we are amending, then we are only contradicting a provision that is already existent within our own Constitution. So in my own opinion, while I'm not to say that whether we may not agree on 35% for this or that, but certainly, definitely, there is no way you can possibly provide that affirmative action without contradicting Section 42A and B of the existing Constitution. I so submit.
Senator Shafa.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to join my colleagues in congratulating the chairman of the Constitutional Review Committee, which aligned with my thoughts. However, I would like to specifically mention the novel initiative of moving the stamp duties in the General Post Service column into the concurrent list. I think we should all support this because this is an avenue of assisting each state of the Federation in getting additional funds. Equally, I want to support the idea brought in by Senator Alero regarding the Land Use Act. This is a very, very sensitive topic, and it generated a lot of debate while we were in session. The Land Use Act, as it relates to the state where I come from, should be left the way it is. And why are we saying this? Immediately you leave that aspect of resource from Lagos State outside the clause of the governor, there will be anarchy in terms of overlords and landlords and various kinds of people claiming ownership of land, thereby resulting in chaos and sometimes issues that the police or whatever enforcement agencies you have on ground, security enforcement agencies you have on ground cannot contain. We know what we are going through as at now when it comes to any issue bordering on land. Again, let me commend the committee on the issue of the mandatory compulsory joint National Assembly, that is the state and the House of Representatives Assembly, which the President is supposed to address annually. This is very, very important, especially now that our country is going through some economic challenges. This is something that we should commend the committee for getting the courage and the boldness to put in the Constitution. And perhaps I should mention that this is also something that is very important in democracy. Lastly, the issue concerning citizenship as it relates to women. I believe there is a missing link somewhere. And that missing link has to do with when a woman who is married assumes the citizenship of the husband, what happens to his original indigenship? Is he going to retain the two, or is he going to leave one and accept the other? That is one area that I would want us to mark for clarification as we go along. Thank you very much.
And the last person is Senator Foster Ogala.
Thank you, my President, distinguished colleagues. I'm Senator Foster Ogala. I'm glad you allowed me to talk, and I'm taking only on issues that have not been mentioned. Mr. President, while I appreciate the Committee for Executive Work, for which I support everything they have recommended, I want to raise an issue. As at now, distinguished senators are talking about excluding some of the things included. But in my own case, the things that concern my people have been excluded from being considered. My people believe in true federation, true federalism, and nothing less than that. It was on that basis that Nigeria became a nation at independence in 1960. We have not talked of true federalism in sense of economic federalism. Mr. President, Nigeria today is agog with calls for restructuring. If we are amending a constitution at this point, we should be concerned with that subject. And now, when everybody is talking of restructuring, we are not yet talking of proper economic restructuring, proper administrative restructuring. And we want that this opportunity should be used to include federalism in the Constitution that we are amending, to ensure that everybody can control its own resources, be it agricultural, be it mineral, be it everything they have, including human capital. I think if we consider that, we should be creating the needed peace in the political and economic space of Nigeria. And so I'm moving that the way we considered the INEC conducting state elections, we should take it on ourselves to resolve and be resolved that we should include restructuring, economic restructuring, in the present process, and subject it to the due process that all the other sections being proposed for amendment have been subjected to. Therefore, I'm moving and pleading with the understanding of my colleagues that I do not need further consultation with my people to raise what concerns them. And I am ready to support everything that has been proposed. And therefore, I'm moving that restructuring, economic restructuring, should be part of what we should propose for amendment, and subject it to the same process to ensure that there will be equity and no more inequity in the governance of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I so move.
Distinguished colleagues, let me thank all those who have contributed to the debate. I particularly thank the Deputy Senate President and members of the Constitutional Committee for a very good work, very good product, and more importantly also for keeping to the promise that you are going to, straight after we finish the budget, before we go on recess, you will be able to lay the report, which we've done and which we have now debated. This is a review that will bring about much more better budget process, better local government administration, to strengthen democracy at the state level, fight against anti-corruption, strengthen our institutions, provide savings for the nation and the electoral process. And, and also, of course, the judiciary and also the fact also that we will be encouraging younger people to take up elective offices, and of course the gender as well. So there have been a lot of very good things in this document, and I hope by the time we come back tomorrow to start the voting process, based on what your insight to have split it into 32 bills, we would be as much as possible to see how many will pass through tomorrow. Let me thank everybody for the contribution. I think there are some observations that I want the DSP and the members to take note, particularly the issue raised by the leader, also the issue raised on the issue of the first line charge of the Attorney General. And I think the issue that seems to be very popular on the issue of the elections at the local government level. I think we will need further consultation with the House of Representatives as well today and this evening, and then based on that be able to come out tomorrow with the bills by which we will vote on. And let me, as I said, thank you for those contributions, and ensure that everybody is here tomorrow with their cards as well. Yes? You will give it to them, the cards, so that we're all here, so that we can have the quorum that is required to carry out this very important exercise. And since by this point we have finished everything on our order paper, hereby the Senate is hereby adjourned till Wednesday, the 26th of July, 2017, at 10 a.m. prompt.